6'7".
6'7".
Yeah.
Oh wait, he's 6'7".
That's crazy.
I don't like that.
Yeah, I don't like a big geography guy.
It could be so fun and so yee, and then all of a sudden it can be like, man, this is just awful, and it's just the worst feeling in the world.
Welcome into Overtime, presented by Perfection One. My name is John Bruce, alongside Shayne Combs, and welcome into the Chillicothe Sports Card Studios in downtown Chillicothe, inside SOSA the Dugout. How are you doing today, Shayne?
Oh, doing well. Nice to hit the summer break here. Still a lot of spring sports action going on in the postseason. Been fun to follow. It was good to be back in the booth the other day for a long day, but it was a fun day. And then I know studio today and back to the booth tomorrow. Can't wait.
Yeah, we're doing this show on a Monday. We had a pretty busy Sunday yesterday. I know you had a graduation to go to, and obviously church on Saturday or Sunday. So we usually do this a little later on Sundays and those. But when you have family, and that's why we got to take care of that before anything else.
Absolutely. Looked. There's a chance to get out and do some of those things with the family, as you said. And then now as we turn the page into holiday weekend, certainly don't want to forget the whole reason for Memorial Day. And we can't thank people enough for their incredible sacrifice and service. And then as you look ahead here to the week, district championship baseball for baseball, and then but the softball side getting onto the Sweet 16.
Oh, we got a lot to talk about on today's episode 103 of the Southern Ohio Sports Authority's Overtime podcast. We've done a lot this year. This is the most we've ever done in the spring. So trying to get as much information out there as possible. We've got another couple weeks left here of overtime before we kind of get going into our full-on summer break, but we want to make sure we're celebrating these teams as long as possible. One of the cool things is the ability for us to be able to get out and cover a lot of those games. And if you are interested, on Tuesday, we're going to have 3 more live streams. We'll talk about those games throughout the episode as well, but 3 on Tuesday, 2 on Wednesday, and then kind of we'll see where we're at for next week in the regionals. But still, there's a lot of baseball and softball to be played throughout this week. As we said, we'll talk about that. If you want to know exactly when we talk about each thing, it'll be in the timestamps in the description below. So make sure you check that out. If you see me looking down at my phone here every once in a while, it's because I'm keeping my timer on here, and it's seemingly is a little bit better than what we had done before, where I'm just like spending 3 hours afterwards, like double checking timestamps, especially on Monday, because this episode's going to go out in about 2 hours.
Yeah, well I again appreciate the effort on all that, because I know the timestamps do help. I see a lot of people when they repost, they kind of highlight those timestamps in terms of where to find that particular team or that particular individual that we're talking about.
Yeah, and that's what we want to make sure. This show is for people, whatever they want to see. So if you just care about the Ava Angel, Maggie Davis back-to-back home runs for Gallia Academy, you can find that in the description below, because we are going to talk about that at length in one of the most exciting games that we've had in the Southeast District. And the funny part about it was earlier in the week I put out, the game of the year. That wasn't even the game of the year. They played in the game of the year a few days later. So, I mean, it's a great week for Gallia Academy softball. And then their baseball team is going to be playing in the district finals as well. So we'll talk about all that throughout the episode. But we've kind of been doing some different discussions throughout this year, and we've gone kind of into depth on coaching. We've gone into depth on kind of some administrative stuff. But now I want to talk about modern day information. And this is going to go baseball, softball, track as well, to all the way to the OHSAA. So this is going to be one of our longer discussions, maybe. We're only going to have one discussion today, so we'll see. It could go long, it might not go. Yeah. It's us, it'll go long. But with modern day information, you're not really people aren't keeping scorebooks anymore. I've seen a few people keep scorebooks, but for the most part, people are using the phone or apps on a iPad. I know that's where we first started doing it when I was at Westfall. We started doing it on the iPad for GameChanger. So GameChanger for baseball, softball. What are your thoughts on GameChanger? And how difficult is it to find information or to keep information to just your team?
It's like anything that's new. You got to get educated on it. You got to make sure you're using it correctly. It's interesting. As an adult, we spend so much time in my job trying to educate kids on social media and trying to educate kids on how to use technology properly because we know it's not going anywhere. The problem in this situation, John, honestly comes from the older generation. It comes from people like myself who have coached for a long, long time, and I was reluctant to change over. In fact, GameChanger was brought to my attention by parents, by fans, by assistant coaches who had come up through the Little League and have used it and so forth. And there are certainly a lot of incredible features to it. I use it all the time in terms of following games that I'm not out at or so forth. Now, if you choose to put a little bit more money into it, that's the beauty of GameChanger from the business aspect. They can really rake you over the coals financially.
They get at least $45 from me each spring.
There you go. And it's a situation where you get even more information. As a coach, you do have to be aware of what's out there. People can get full stat sheets. They can get spray charts. They can get a lot of things that do matter. I've always said posting your league leaders or talking about some kids, I don't know how much of a scouting report that is. All of a sudden, as a coach, if I have your entire stat sheet, that's a whole different animal.
Yeah.
So it's something that I'm going to be honest, I didn't love as a coach late in my career. I was always more of a, even when I'm in the booth now, you'll see me with my pad, my pencil, and I'm keeping my old school scorecard. You know what I mean? And it's but I also understand that is old school, and I understand that the new way we're going is this, and it can, when used correctly, it can be really, really good. But man, there are some hiccups for coaches. There are some hiccups in the stat sheets, the way things are recorded, the way they get filed away, and it's, I don't know. What are your thoughts?
So I started using it, this is probably in 2013, 2014, I know, but I was still keeping it on a pad, and then I would go in between innings. Now, at that time, we weren't using Wi-Fi. We were just putting it up at the end of the night. So it wasn't like you were fully using it. We were using it as a scorebook, more or less, and then at the end of the night, we'd print it off, and that way we'd still have it. And I thought that part was good. Now, coaching, when I coached JV, sometimes people would, like, before it was really, everybody was using it, and a few years I didn't have an assistant, so I'm out there coaching third base, keeping whatever's going on. And it's just, I don't know, it's just, I miss the old school books, but I understand why, and I understand it's for almost a simplicity's sake. But what I would like to see is, if someone's going to keep it, that there's only one team. So, like, you look up certain teams, there's like 12 different teams for that. Well, then you got to find varsity, and then you got to try to find the coach's name, because then that way you know it's actually that one, because it could just be a parent. It could just be somebody, and they're keeping track of whatever, which is fine, but
because that has happened.
Yeah.
You have a lot of teams that where you'll even talk to a coach. Well, I have a parent that keeps one because it kind of keeps, people can follow it live and so forth. We keep our official stuff over here. I get it. I mean, but that can be really confusing when there's a lot of different names out there and you're not sure which ones to follow.
Right, and that's for me, when I'm doing at the VA doing the public address announcing, it's really nice to have, because then I can follow other games, because there's only the one game, maybe two games a night there, and I can follow the other things, and I can see what's going on across different area teams. It actually helps our show, because
certainly,
because then we're able to put out more information. Like there's it was Trevin Brooks from Portsmouth had a 15 strikeout game the other day, and it's like, well, maybe we don't know about that, because it's just, if it wasn't put out in a newspaper and we didn't see it. If it was put out in a newspaper, I didn't see it until 5 minutes before the show, and then I saw that. I was like, "Oh, I'm making my notes, and we got to make sure we're going to highlight this outstanding, accomplishment." And so that's what I like for it. I understand where coaches would be kind of skittish on it, especially if you can see the spray charts, because sometimes Like we had a player that was, I think I mentioned him before, was about 6'4", about 290 pounds. Lefty, you would have pulled your defense pull side on him. Dude had a slow swing, but he made contact with everything, just sprayed stuff over the shortstop constantly. So he would get extra base hits because of where the teams would field or play him. But if you see his spray chart, well, maybe you can play him more of what type of hitter he was. And it's just, that's how it can really impact things. It can make scouting a little easier on that. But as you said, just looking at your stats doesn't necessarily do anything.
When I'm calling play-by-play, I don't mark every single pitch like I would back in the day of keeping an actual book, and I'd be, because it also become my scouting stuff for future things. I'd make notes on hitters, I'd make different things. But the other night, I pulled it up because the coach in me, once Huntington started the breakout game open, I'm like, Owyer's got a chance to be eligible for Tuesday. So I started tracking that. So that was a resource there. So, look, it's always out there. All I would tell coaches, and a lot of coaches know this because they've been using it for a long time now. If you're a little bit newer to it, the only thing I would say is be aware of settings. Because like a lot of coaches, even though their program's been using it for 5, 6, 7, 8 years, they don't do it. Mm-hmm. All I would say is make sure whoever is running it, you're aware of the settings that are out there, because you can get some really, really big-time scouting information if you give all access all the time.
Yeah, we were just looking at something earlier, and we're like, well, with how far away these teams were, how did they kind of know that they could run? Well, you could see the catcher stats. And it's like, well, not always on the catcher that they're going to have a lot of stolen bases, but that can kind of tip you off a little bit, especially when it's such a big amount. Yeah. But one of the things with GameChanger is I think that it's good on the pitch count, because then if teams are at different pitch counts, so you can kind of check on that stuff. Mm-hmm. Now, for me, when I was keeping my book throughout the spring, I wasn't keeping track of pitches then. But now that I'm the official book for the tournament, I'm keeping track of the pitches. So then I can go back and I can double check at the end of an inning to see how many pitches a kid has thrown, because I want to make sure that it's in the book in case someone goes over that number before their next game, and just want to make sure that everything is done properly and it doesn't come back to hurt a team later, to where like if Oyer would have went to like 76. Yeah. Well, it would have not come back to hurt Huntington later if they would have tried to use him. Now he did not go to 75 even, so so he's eligible to come back, but you want to make sure to do things right in those ways. So that's just part of kind of our modern day information that we're going to talk about. But track people. Like, I've been told everything's at this athletic.net, everything's good. I can't find half of the stuff. Now, maybe it's better on a computer. I don't know, but I'm not on my computer most of the time. If I'm using athletic.net and it's like you go to this date, find the track information, I found one track meet out of the 4 divisions in the Southeastern. It might only be 3 divisions, but in divisions 3, 4, and 5, I only found 4. Was the only one that I found any information on. I couldn't find the other dates, and it just kind of gets frustrating after a while when we kind of came up when Bomb's page started to be a thing. Whatever happened with that, I assume money-wise, It was so nice. You knew exactly where to go. You knew where everything was. You knew how to find everything. And now you can't look at more than one event at a time, and you can't find the semis. You can only find the finals, and then you got to go back to a completely different meet, and it's all this stuff, and this is probably sound, but like we want to talk about it, but there's only like, if we can't find it, we're dumb baseball people. We're dumb baseball people. Help us out. Like, stick to something consistent. Like, if you're going to do the athletic.net or whatever, just make it to where it's easy to find. Yeah. Like, it's got 50 states. It's got territories on there. Like, yeah, you can find Ohio. And then it's like, oh, here's the meets. Oh, there's 12 of them. See more. Oh, you just went back to April. Like, why am I going back to April? I don't care about April. I want to see what happened 2 days ago. can't do that. I don't know. I don't like it, and I think we're in 2026. Why are we using things that are not as good as they were in 2003?
What I would add to that, because I think the way you just went through that was really, really good, because you're describing someone who actually really does care. You really are trying to find it, and you went way, way further along from an additional information standpoint than most people would. Mm-hmm. So the point that John's making there, I think, is a good one that he didn't even mean to make by saying what he said, was a lot of average just fans, wonder how track is it. They're going to go a step or two and I can't, I'll just wait.
Right.
I mean, I appreciate like the coaches who put the post out, the boosters. Mm-hmm. We highlighted that a couple of weeks ago. We got a lot of great people in a lot of different areas. That's really growing. I appreciate that because it gives me some feedback on some different kids and programs, and you can start to piece them together. The point that we're making is, just like in baseball, a lot of people aren't going to pay for the access of GameChanger. So GameChanger is only going to give you so much if you're not going to pay for the access, because you can't go back, you can't look at stats, you can't look at different things. It basically just tells you right now live who's up. Oh, they got out. You know what I mean? Like it's the more availability. Now, you just said the magic M word there, money. Mm-hmm. You know what's happened over time in the coaches associations. All of a sudden, what's happened to Mom Page? Well, I'd say there's some more people that are starting to financially get a little bit more involved and supportive.
Well, and I know that's messing up some timing stuff. And it's where people have to have all these extra timers and everything for different meets. And some people aren't going to certain meets because, like, the timers aren't there. So
gotta have the official time.
Yeah, you can't have the official time.
That's all the way down to even junior high.
Yeah.
Like to qualify for the state level. I know you had to be at some official track meets where they had official times that would qualify you into one of those spots.
Why is it so expensive to run a track meet? Yeah. Like, you should have to be able to get the amount of timers and officials that you should need, and then having to pay for all this extra stuff on top of it is crazy to me, because like you go to a baseball game, there's more baseball games on a night, but you pay 2 umpires.
Yeah. And the reason we're bringing this up, because there's a lot of people out there be like, well, no big deal, just pay it or what. Yeah. The reason we're bringing this up is because we've lived spring sports for 30 years. Mm-hmm. Spring sports, the number one kickback you're going to get from your athletic directors, from your administrations, costs too much. We don't make anything off. Well, we don't try to make anything off of it either. Mm-hmm. So what happens is track's the one place they do try to make some money. They do try to have invitational, but it costs so much to run them that it ends up counterproductive. Mm-hmm. So like in the spring setting, and I say we because I've lived it forever, we need more exposure. We need more support. We need more financial support. So we need things that are more cost effective, but we also need more promotion. So when you get media who is willing to do podcast shows and to do stream, like I've seen a lot of other media outlets like out there doing spring sports. I love it. I've watched 7 softball games, I think, this week. I told you. We called 4 of them, and then we watched probably another 4 or 5 baseball games. Like, I appreciate all of the resources, because obviously as SOSA, I want to see SOSA do really well. But as a longtime baseball coach, I want to see spring sports blossom into what they should be. And I just think sometimes track is still cheating itself because it's a confusion. Like in baseball, softball, we get these brackets that come out a while back. So we know who's going to play when, where are they playing, what time are they going to play. When in track, like you're asking yourself, okay, now they're coming to Southeastern here. A lot of them are in this district. Like, okay, what night's that? What time is that? What? Now, like, let's say you're not a track person. Okay, I know like the shot and the discus are different nights, but some relay finals are now, but some relay finals are, you see what I'm saying? They're just, there needs to be more and more education in terms of how they promote their sport, in my opinion. I think it'd go a long way.
Yeah, and like we're friends with track coaches that, give us information, but there's only so much out there that we could know. And like we weren't even able to find stuff on how their kids did overall, other than we know how some of them did because of them putting out the information. Now we know like Bo Hessler from North Adams is amazing. Joey Francis from Medina, outstanding. The Williams siblings out at St. Trace. Peyton Connell had a huge meet in Division 4. Division 4 is all I found.
The distance kid down at Rock Hill that we highlighted in
Snavely, yeah.
Really good.
So, I mean, like, we know some, like, but we want to know as much as we possibly can, and it's just, it gets to be pretty difficult. Like, I know the pole vault was kind of waved off between, Davis and Williams in the district. But before, you could see exactly how they did on each different level. Now I just see, there's just the final height. Like, they just tied. Like, that's it. That's all. That's all I know. Like, I don't know. Like, did any of them not make one of the heights? Did it's just, I don't know. It's just, I wish the information kind of came along throughout, like it has.
And
other sports.
I assume it's out there.
Yeah.
I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. All we're saying is we're trying to give an honest perspective of. I really think the sport needs to try to educate the media and educate some more people on how to get it and how to promote it.
Yes, I agree with that completely. And then the last thing on this discussion, I told you this would be our longest discussion, but OHSAA. And this is, if you go to their history, like if you go, let me just pull up I have the website up now, but if you go on it, this is also really good video work right now, also audio. So if you go to like sports and tournaments, click on it, go down to literally any sport, you can go find full history of any sport from 1922 or whatever year it started until 2021, and then it's like, who knows, especially in the spring, like 2025 softball. Like, I was trying to look up because we're getting ready for the getting ready for the show, getting ready to talk about different teams that our local teams are going to play in the regional. Like, how did that team do last year? I don't know. Got to go through GameChanger. Got to go through Max Preps to find out how this team did, because the state tournament brackets aren't up there for last year. They're up there for 2002. They're up there for 2015. But they're just not for 2025. Like, why are we getting lazy? I know why they're getting lazy, because it's spring sports. But I don't get, like, and then you go to the events, they're well ran. The people that are there organizing are doing a great job, but like, we can't lose out on some of this history stuff because no one knows who's going to do it. And that ends up being, I get asked all the time about different things on like softball history in the Central Valley Conference, and I just don't know. Like, honestly, on some of the stuff, because people never really kept it. Like, baseball is like iffy on some of the stuff. But like, if we have the state, which has a phenomenal website, like you can find 99% of what you're looking for in 3 clicks. But if you're the state, don't let that go away. Don't make it to where that's not as available as it always has been.
Is it a technology, because this might be me just being stupid out loud, is it a technology archiving thing? Because the reason I say that, John, is I think in my own program, I probably would have a better chance of giving you some 07 through like 2017 or 18 information quicker than I could over the last 4 or 5 years, and that's silly. Why? Because a lot of people in our program wanted to go to GameChanger, and then the GameChanger, like, okay, well, then it went to GameChanger Premium, and do we still have access to those? Well, I don't know. Well, we printed them off somewhere. Where 2007, I go to my filing cabinet and be like, hey, here's my snap sheet. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like, so again, I know I'm getting old, and that's part of where, as I step back, I realize that, right? I realize it was starting to pass me by, and I just want to go a different route. But like, this stuff is real in terms of the way technology is starting to be forced upon us sometimes by the money they give the coaches associations and so forth. They're like for a while, Max Preps had gotten in with softball, correct, where they had to have their stuff on there. All of that stuff is there, and you hope that it's being archived correctly because, as you said, it almost works backwards. If you went to try to find something from 2000 and couldn't find it, you'd be like, oh, okay, well, there must have been you go to find something from 2 years ago or 3 years ago, and you're like, where's it at?
Yeah, and like I understand it can be a hassle to update some of the stuff because like I have that Unioto basketball website.
Awesome website, yeah.
And man, is it a hassle at the end of the year to make sure everybody's stats are up to date because I do like that kind of the bio part. And I almost do like the back of a basketball card, and especially like whenever I do end up updating like a Miley Smith, like that's going to be a hassle to do because there's so much stuff throughout it, but it's important to have, and people can go back and check it. It can be like I've got on that website, I've got not every year of high school basketball in the Ross County, but going back to like the 1940s on there, like.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was going to say. Yeah. It's almost misleading to call it a Unioto basketball website because, what it does is it highlights everything across the league for sure, even the county in some cases.
Yeah, like that stuff, but it can be difficult to keep up with and do it, and especially because you're not seeing money for it. And I'm sure someone's being paid to do the OHSAA updating stuff, but I'm sure it's also like their fifth job.
Here's a great example. I'm guilty of this. I did the website for the longest time. And you and I remember meeting for lunch, and I said, hey, I'm going to be quitting doing this here over the next year. Feel free to pull whatever you want because I know you were going to run with it, and I knew you were doing stuff. And you and I have always had a passion. You and I, the great Del Haynes, when he passed away, you and I met, and his wife had passed on a lot of information, and we felt obligated to take Del's effort and work and to push it on into the next generation. But what happens is when that website went away, those documents went away. I didn't realize it at the time. I probably should have saved some of those different things. We had a lot of history pages on there. Probably should have archived those a little bit better. You don't think about that stuff at the time, but then it's gone. You know what I mean?
And I was going to also add in, you don't know when the website is going to be sold to someone else.
That's
like
right.
The website you're using could be moved on to somebody else completely, or just gets too expensive.
Yeah.
And that stuff you don't really think about it at the time, and that's why it's very important to keep track of all your archives in a variety of different ways as well.
So I guess, and I know you and I just kind of are, as we always do, just talking about different things. If you're going to put a theme on this first section, I think the theme is don't assume that technology is going to archive better than we've archived in the past. Coaches, athletic departments really focus year in, year out on how you're going to have a system to where you're going to archive these things away so that you have them, because they really do matter.
Yes, they do matter. And then if you really look at it as far as just keeping information going at all times, it's very important to keep track of it, because you don't know, like when you move on, it needs to be there for the people behind you as well. So, so right now, some people really care, some coaches really care, but what happens if, a different job comes up, they leave, but they didn't print off that information? Well, that's why it's important every year to keep track of each and everything, because I'm in pretty good contact with the Adena athletic boosters, and they're finding all kinds of information from newspaper archives. Well, if the newspaper is not archiving as much, it's very important to make sure they get every piece of information possible, and they're doing a great job of keeping track of all their stuff anyway. But this went over 25 minutes on that.
Yeah, but I think it's a good discussion. I think it's one that's real for spring sports especially, and I think it's something to be aware of. I think there's some good content there.
Yeah, I think it's something that people do care about and really have a good idea of. as well. So now we're going to get to kind of the bulk of what we're going to talk about throughout the episode, which is going to be tournament time. And we'll start in baseball first. Division III had, a couple of not super wild results, because we talked about it the other day of like, hey, there's 8 teams in Division III. There's 8 teams that could win this district. And it was kind of proven when Warren shocks Miami Trace and Hillsboro also upsets Sheridan to really shake up the Division III bracket. For Hillsboro, because we cover them more, they jumped out to a 7-0 lead against Sheridan, then had to hold on for a 7-5 win. 9 walks they took in the game. So Sheridan, a really good arm, but just weren't able to throw strikes. And Hillsboro, to their credit, took the walks and were able to jump out to a big lead. Only 4 hits in the game. Walker Pence had a double. Jack Cornelli scored 3 times. Luke Holland had a single, also had an RBI on a walk. But he also got the win for them, went the distance, no earned runs out of the 5. So just a 7-5 win for Hillsboro, and they're a team that we've been really high on throughout the year.
Well, just we've given the FAC a lot of credit for the depth of the league, and I think it's really showing up here in the postseason a little bit. It wasn't about just how good the teams were at the top, as one took it on the chin, as you said, but the depth, you get into the tournament and you put that number 1 on the mound, you put your best lineup behind. And you never know, and I think that's what you see in this bracket. We said going in that we thought this was one of the more wide open opportunities, and it certainly proved to be even more wide open than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, it's been very wide open, as you said, and that's what's going to lead to some really good baseball down at Ohio University on Wednesday. Now for Miami Trace, they end up having 8 base hits in a game they lost 6-1. They did not score until 2 outs in the bottom of the 7th. Just couldn't get runs across, and that's just what it comes down to is really good defense and run prevention from Warren in that game. Cam Morton had a pair of hits. Austin Brown had 3 hits, including an RBI single, which was their last hit and run of the year. But Miami Trace a really nice year, and they've still got a lot of positives coming back. Dealing with adversity with Morton missing most of the year, one of the better pitchers in our area. Just unfortunate for them that they weren't able to have him throw this year.
Yeah, the 8 hits is what jumps out at me. A lot of times it shows you that you got to make productive outs. You've got to be able to get guys over to have a chance to get them in, and then you need timely hits. And I guess that's the definition of when a pitcher scatters X amount of hits over X amount of innings, and that's what they were able to do there. But no, that's a good baseball team that went down there early, and it just, again, shows you the depth of the bracket.
Yeah, then if you look over at the other side, you had Athens in a game that we pretty much had kind of correctly called was going to be a really good game, a 2-1 win over Chillicothe. Wakely was outstanding, struck out 5, no earned runs for Athens. They do a great job. Sean Brown was nearly his equal, as he was really good for Chillicothe as well. Look for them next year to be a team to really keep an eye out on, because Brown only a junior, Tay Harris only a junior. They've got some nice pieces coming back. I really like Rucker-Deddy as a freshman. Mm-hmm. I think with Gallagher, they've got some exciting pieces coming, but a really good win for Athens.
Oh, incredible win, and we did. We highlighted that game the last 2 weeks, if you remember, when the bracket first had come out 2 weeks ago, and then last week we really thought that would be a coin flip game, and really well-pitched game, well-defended, runs hard to come by, and in Athens it moves on.
Yeah, David Sharp and Isaiah Orocho, each with doubles in the game and RBIs. Just a nice job by the Athens offense to get enough and to use their big bats to do so. They've got a tough one coming up with Jackson, who just beat them 12-3 the other day. Yeah. But this is a Jackson team. Well, the bracket is kind of opening up for them, and it's giving them a golden opportunity. They've still, when you've looked at some of their recent results, they have given up a lot of runs to some really good teams when it wouldn't be their ace pitching. When their ace is going, with Wyatt's going, they've been really good. But they give up 7 in a Saturday game against South Webster, who's a really good team. They give up 11 to Unioto, who's a really good team. They give up 14 to Eastern Reedsville, another really good team. So they're facing these good depth of offense teams, and they're giving up a lot of runs when it's maybe not their one on the mound. So that's going to be the biggest thing for Coach McGraw and the Ironmen. But I love the way this bracket kind of breaks down for them.
No question about it. Now, keep in mind, Athens has multiple arms. They've proven throughout the year, so sometimes they don't have to call upon one guy to go 7. They can kind of keep you off balance by maybe splitting a game. And again, I'm not saying that's what they'll do. I'm just saying what I've seen throughout the year from them. So, but you're right. I mean, this Jackson, we've highlighted it all 3 seasons, right? This Jackson senior class has kind of been building for this moment, and it's right out there in front of them. Let's see if they can go get it.
Yeah, Wyatt struck out 11 in their 6-1 win over Marietta. But as you mentioned, the seniors, 4 runs, 5 hits, 4 RBIs for Eli Ray, Ryan Simons, Buddy Wolford combined in those 2, 3, 4 spots for the Ironmen. And it's just that's kind of what got them going in that game. And if those seniors can carry them, they've got a chance to make a big-time run.
Yeah, no question about it. That's going to be an exciting bracket to follow.
Now let's go to Division 4. In Division 4, we'll go kind of down through the bracket based off of kind of the seeding. Let's start with the 1 seed, Fairfield Union. They hold on to beat Circleville 3-2. Eli Wolf got the win for the Falcons, went 4 2/3 with 6 strikeouts. Only allowed 1 unearned run. And then Cameron Silcott came up, got the save, strikes out 6 over the last 2 1/3 innings. Did go up a run, but he's been an outstanding 1-2 punch for them.
No question about it. Remember, we talked about how we thought Circleville was just kind of a dangerous, lurking tournament team, that they've had a history of doing this and playing their best baseball here. So that tight game there didn't surprise me. I certainly would have picked Fairfield Union to win, but I thought it would be tight just because, and it was. And then down there in the bottom bracket, I know we'll talk a little bit about that. I think that's a huge step for some of the youth of McLean to get on that stage, but Gallia Academy proved to be a little too much.
Yeah, going back to Fairfield Union real quick, Brady Andrews had 2 big RBIs in that game to help them out to a 3-0 lead, and then they were able to hold on. Circleville had the tying run on base. And just kind of goes to show what you were talking about with that Circleville. They were playing well at the end of the year.
Yeah.
They had that huge explosion against Westfall earlier in the week where they got down 5-0, and then they ended up winning 18-5.
Yeah.
It's just, that's kind of what they do. And, don't be surprised if they're back next year. But kind of a tough overall season for them, but don't sleep on them in the future. But for Gallia Academy, 21 wins now on the season, a 5-2 win over McLean. Had a big 5th inning. And it's just one of those things you see a lot of times in the postseason. They get a leadoff single. Then they go to bunt him over to second. Ends up being a bunt single. You don't make a play on it. They end up with runners on second and third after a couple of steals. And then you squeeze in a run. They don't get an out. He goes up on a first and third situation, runner scores from third. You just go big time small ball, make the other team make a play. So it's 1-1 going into the inning. That makes it 3-1, and then the big hits come. Maddox Delaney doubles in a run, and then Nathan Shockley triples in Delaney to give them a 5-1 lead. They end up holding on for a 5-2 win. In that game, Delaney was 3 for 3 with 2 doubles. Shockley was 2 for 3 with a triple. Logan Drummond and Beckett Camden each had 2 hits, also scored runs. Logan Drummond was really good in that game. 1 earned run, didn't walk a batter, and struck out 4 by going the distance.
Yeah, you mentioned something there that's starting to become a theme in the postseason, where you've got to be able to stop the bleeding. When you make one mistake, you can't allow it to turn into 2 or 3, 4, because so many times we see it all the time. Guy on first, going to bunt a guy over. Well, you bunt, you don't field it. This is going to come up in our Division 4 talk later. Right? You don't field it, you don't get an out. Now it's first and second. Well, unless a big-time hitter's coming up, chances are, guess what the next guy's doing?
Yeah.
He's bunting again. And it just takes 1 or 2 plays to where if you make an out, you just make damage control happen. I'm not saying you won't give up a run or 2, but at some point, that's how it snowballs, and that's how it turns into a 3-4 run. And with the pitching matchups that you get, a lot of times when all of a sudden a 1-1 game becomes 3 or 4-1, it's not over, but man, it feels like it is.
Yeah, it can make it a lot more difficult to come back. But you had kind of mentioned it a little bit. A really nice season for McLean. Kind of a turnaround.
Yeah, I've really liked that group all year.
And then in that game, Connor Chandler had a pair of hits, also scored 2 runs, had a double. Eli Douglas had 2 hits as well. They're a team that they mixed in some underclassmen and upperclassmen. They've got a nice thing going currently. It'd be nice to see that turnaround keep going for the McLean baseball program.
I think for the entire McLean athletic program, I don't think people realize, like we've talked a little bit sometimes about the realignment of conferences, and we've talked about how certain teams at the bottom of these conferences, they're so overwhelmed throughout the regular season. You look at McLean, it's got to be overwhelming in the FAC at times in some of these sports against your Jacksons, against your Miami Traces, against your Chillicothe's. I think this McLean team has put themselves in a position going into next year on the boys' side. In the girls, they found a couple sports where they can't compete at all, but then they found some other sports where they can. I think on the boys' side, baseball could become one here in the next year or two where they could maybe start to sneak their way into that top half.
Yeah, I think they can as well. So it was a nice turnaround year for them. I look for that to continue as you still have a Chandler and you still have some nice pieces coming back for them in the future. So big one on Tuesday, district championship game, Fairfield Union against Gallia Academy. That'll be played at Ohio University. Just kind of, seems like Gallia Academy, they very senior heavy, but they've kind of been building to this, and the same for Fairfield Union. 2 years ago, Fairfield Union was a 16 seed, and they ended up knocking off the 1 seed in the second round. So they won their first round matchup, they win their second round matchup, and it just seems like they've been building to this. This one should be a really fun game.
Yeah, with the short turnaround in terms of pitching staff, sometimes in these finals, the pitching staff can get tested, the depth of it a little bit. I certainly think Fairfield Union would be up to that challenge. But you're right. You just like the way this Gallia Academy team, there's been something about that athletic department this year that's just really jumped out at me. I just think they have a lot of good things going, some good vibes, you know what I mean, like when you're around. And I think some of that stuff's contagious. And the 4 seed becomes really dangerous as the deeper they go. You almost get a little bit of a house money feel to it here, and that can put a little pressure on the top seed if Gallia could get off to a good start.
Well, the MSL Buckeye champions have some really good pitching depth. Brady Andrews is outstanding behind the plate, but they had to use two arms in that game.
That's
a
factor.
We'll see what that depth is when it comes to their pitching when it comes to this game, because Gallia was able to get through it with only using Drummond, who's their best, but at the same time, at least you can do your 2 instead of having to go to your 3 or 4 in that.
And again, pitch counts are a factor there too, because you do have the 2 days off.
Well, that's because Silcott got up to 55 on the day, so, and then Wolf was at 80, so it's not going to be able to come back with those. But you got Waldrop, Dilcher, Burke, Chillicothe. You got some really outstanding players throughout this lineup for Fairfield Union, and that's going to make them a really dangerous team no matter who's on the mound for them.
Yeah, no question.
And then let's move down to 2 of the games that we streamed. We'll start with the first game that we streamed, because that was the Wheelersburg and Washington Courthouse game that we thought, based on how the weather started or came on in that game, it was, by the way, the greatest timing ever for a delay. Washington goes out. It's 3-3 going into the bottom of the 6th. Washington goes out to start warming up. Umpires pull them off the field. So I make the announcement. Nobody seemed to really care. And then about 15 seconds later, just a downpour. But it was after everybody was off the field. It was like perfect timing of, if they warm up, well, they're going to have to come off after warming up and everything. But I think everyone was able to stay dry until the bottom half of that inning. Once they restarted, the rain did come down a little bit. And, man, Cameron Kahn blew that game open with a 3-run triple. They get 2 strikeouts to start and then 3 walks and then the Kahn triple, and ends up being a 9-3 game.
Yeah,
much closer than what.
Way closer. It was one of the better games we had throughout our time calling. Look, the 3-3 Osborne was really, really good, and I don't know if he would have looked like he was coming back out.
Yeah.
Obviously, I mean, he was out there when they took. And then with the long delay, they went to Lotz, who's obviously really good. Had the first 2 strikeouts. That's a tough spot to come in. You're sitting down to the bullpen. You're trying to warm up. You feel like they're waiting on you. You come in. I'm not saying this is what happened. I'm just saying this is the vibe in the ballpark. You come in, and he throws the ball really well, and he gets the 2 strikeouts. But then, he starts to lose the release point, and
then the rain starts
long
coming
before
even more.
the big swing that you referred to. It just seemed like it was hard. It was a very difficult spot to pitch in comparison to what the guys had pitched in earlier in the game, and the walks is what really kind of set the table for that particular thing. But no, it was a great game. I thought Kahn and Osborne were really good. They were pitch efficient. Some timely. Ian, sorry, the Cameron and the Ian.
Yeah.
Ian Kahn was really good, and then Osborne had the big swing to the backside there to kind of get some scoring and keep them in it. And then you're sitting there 3-3, anybody's game, and then, like you said, all with 2 outs. All with 2 outs. That was another theme of 2 or 3 things that happened throughout the day in the ballpark. The ability to go from any point in the order at any time, and that's what good teams do, and Wheelersburg certainly is that.
Yeah, definitely a very good team. And you have Brady Doss.
Doss had some big swings.
Huge bat in that order. It's going to be interesting to see when Branson Russell, he was able to get out there and get an inning in, because I'm not sure if Ian Kahn was going to come back either. Like, he went 6.
Well, that's the thing we never will know because of the long inning and the rain delay and so forth. So we knew Osborne was coming out because he was out there.
Yeah. So it ended up, a nice win for Wheelersburg, a tough way for it to kind of end for Washington, because they played well. It's just
they did play well.
Just kind of got out of hand there in the 6th. But full credit to Wheelersburg.
They have youth too. Like, I know they have some older guys that have really done a nice job. But I was real impressed with how those older guys brought the younger guys along. And there's some pieces there that are going to really hit the ground running in the next year for the Blue Lions.
Yeah, the more they grow and physically just get more prepared, they're going to be really good, because they swing the bat really well as it is now.
Yeah.
I thought they played a really good defensive game as well. So good win for Wheelersburg. They will move on to Tuesday night, where they will take on the Logan Elm Braves, who beat Unioto for the 2nd time this season, a 4-1 win. Someone asked me, is it an upset? I said, by seeding it is, but Logan Elm had beat them earlier in the year. Kind of a similar pitching matchup, but man, Brady Neff was really good. And then Kelton Bennington came in just throwing BBs at the end of the night. Just an outstanding performance, I thought, from Logan Elm, pitching, defense, and then doing what they needed to do offensively.
The Logan Elm, everything you just said, ditto. But, their athleticism is what jumps out at me. I mean, you watch this team defend, you watch this team run the bases, handle the bat. Their athleticism just really, really puts pressure. And look, we've known all year long with Unioto, with Sanders on the mound, they're going to be a tough out. But at the same time, we knew the Unioto offense more times than not. You think of the late season game with Zane Trace, where it goes deep into extra innings and no score. Unioto's actually able to kind of almost steal a run off of a nice piece of hitting from Long. Little do we know that would be the hit that they get. But nonetheless, they go up 1-0, and it goes back to what we just talked about 10 minutes ago, bunt defense. If a team bunts and you don't get an out, guess what the next guy's going to do? They're going to bunt again. And before you know it, bunt coverage and bunt defense that you've done for 2.5, 3 months now, all of a sudden in pressure situations, all of a sudden you're a step late, or the athleticism, the guy coming out of the box is getting down the line just a little bit quick, and that was it. That was really, when you consider the Logan Elm pitching versus the Unioto offense matchup, when they were able to get those runs, you almost felt like, you don't know if you need an offense to come back from that. Yeah. And you just felt that way watching. Yeah, I was not calling that one, so I was almost watching it more just as a fan perspective. And just can't say enough about the athleticism, the ability to throw strikes, and then the ability to go with multiple arms to kind of mix and match there as they got into the late innings.
Hey, if you want to know how good the MSL Buckeye is, watch watch this Logan Elm team. Either go back and watch that live stream, or watch it on Tuesday when we have them against Wheelersburg, and just be like, "This is a 5th place team.
Yeah,
like this is like they are unbelievably athletic." And then I would guess Bennington's probably going to go against Wheelersburg, and he's going to throw in the upper 80s. And then you've got just, I mean, they had a couple of plays where they kind of had some iffy plays, honestly.
The one fly ball,
that
was bizarre.
Yeah, then you had a little bit of a boot, and then the very next play was maybe the best play of the day by the same kid who had one of those.
I think I looked over at you and I said, "Isn't that baseball?" I said, "He boots the one, and then on the next batter he makes one of the best plays we've seen all night."
Yeah, just unbelievable. And going back to the bunting, so it all starts because they get a base hit from the 9-hole.
Yeah.
Lucas Miley gets a base hit. Brady Neff puts down a perfect bunt because it just stays on the first baseline and just nobody went and got it. And so he's able to beat a tag. The next bunt, the Summers kid, it was an 0-2 pitch, gets a bunt down and right to Blake Sanders, but nobody covered first. But if someone covers first, that game might be completely different, because then you have the option to walk Bennington. Yeah. Well, there's nowhere to put Colton Bennington, who's one of the best players in the Southeast District. He lines a double, and then later they ended up scoring a run on a ground out 2 batters later. I thought Unioto might have been able to pull the infield in, but they didn't. So it ends up being 3-1, and that's when it was really felt like, oh, this could be tough because they're not getting base runners on. But then later in the game, this is where this Logan Elm lineup's really good. Unioto had an open base, so they walked Bennington.
Yeah.
Well, what happens? Ebert comes out with a base hit to make it 4-1, and it's just like, well, you got this guy behind him with 3 hits.
Yeah.
And it's, well, that's just the depth of their lineup.
Yeah.
If they can put things together and get 3 or 4 runs, that's a team that can make a long tournament run because of what they can do pitching and defense-wise.
No question. And look, as far as walking people intentionally, you can second-guess those things all the way through. Just because the guy gets a hit doesn't mean it was a bad decision.
Exactly.
And just because the guy gets out doesn't make it the good decision.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? Like it's just you prepare, you go with your gut, you're in those situations again because the way the table's been set.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to talk about that in softball later in terms of some big games. But going back to Logan Elm in terms of the that moment. When you're trying to get to a good pitcher like Sanders, you get 1 or 2 opportunities in the game, and Logan Elm cashed in. And once they cashed in, you just felt like that might do it. And again, obviously in the Unioto dugout, I'm sure they didn't feel that way, and they had the confidence. I'm just saying, as someone who had watched those 2 teams play all year long, and knowing that pitching versus offense matchup, you just had a feeling of like, I don't know if they're going to need more than 3.
Yeah. And I want to talk about Blake Sanders for a second.
Yes.
I kind of mentioned this. He is a player, kind of like Andrew Oger for Huntington, where the showcase circuit is going to hurt these guys way more than if a coach just comes and watches them pitch. Because that dude can just flat out pitch. He's throwing 78, 79, got a nice breaking ball. He mixes his location unbelievably well because, he got one of those outs he got was probably as a broken bat, like to get out of one of the situations or one of the jams that he was in early in the game. And you had mentioned it was like, oh, he's, even if it's 78, he's jamming on the hands. And after he had just gone outside, boom, jams you on the hands, easy ground ball back to him. Yeah. Just knows how to pitch. And, it's not going to light up a radar gun, but that will probably hurt him on where he's going to end up pitching if he wants to keep pitching. Only a junior, but every time he steps on the mound, takes the ball, he's going to give them a chance.
Every time. And it started last year, and it's coming to this year. He not only pitches up, down, in, out, but he has a unique ability to create angles cutting across the plate both ways. And he really, really commands the black on the inner half and on the outer half. I really enjoyed watching him pitch yesterday because, as I've said this year, I've enjoyed watching these guys pitch a lot more from like the booth or the stands that I have the third base coaching box. His ability to just set the next pitch up and to kind of pitch one or two pitches ahead. You're exactly right about the whole recruitment thing and all the drafting things. And, unfortunately, we live in a time where, they're going to put – we just talked about this last week's show, right? They're going to put the radar gun on it and how hard do you spin it and all those things. Every now and then you just love to watch a guy pitch, and that young man can pitch.
Oh, he can flat out pitch it for sure. And then Tuesday, we will have Wheelersburg and Logan Elm on live stream from VA Memorial Stadium. Should be a really outstanding game. I believe that's going to be the last game on Tuesday night.
Don't you think this is the other thing the 7 divisions gives us? It gets the competitive balance and enrollment spread out to the proper stages to where, when we talked about when you see a Wheelersburg playing a Courthouse or a Logan Elm or those types of things, it kind of resets the structure of our Southeast District. It's kind of neat.
Yeah, I've enjoyed it a lot. I know some people have not, but I have enjoyed it a great deal, and I think it has.
And I'm open-minded to people giving me feedback. Just no one's given me feedback that's changed my mind on it.
Right. Yeah. So let's go to Division 5. In Division 5, we haven't had a ton yet. We haven't gotten into district semis, but, man, we had a couple of district quarterfinals that almost shook up the entire thing. And one of the things that we talked about was it was loaded and it was deep. But I don't think we knew it was as deep as it is. So for Minford, they need a walk-off sac fly to beat River Valley, who's the 17 seed. Minford, the 1 seed, needs a walk-off sac fly to win. It shows how the depth of the entire division is your 17 seed, who already had to go on the road once and win, almost went on the road twice. But also that could impact some things where you're not getting days off. Now I know some teams are still playing. I know Minford kept playing during that time, so it wasn't like they were just sitting at home waiting. But still, really impressed with what River Valley was able to do. For Minford, you've got a really nice depth of their lineup with Mason Bradley, Max Lauder, Ty Borland, Carter Frazee, Colby Mullins, Mark Napier, and then you even have at the bottom you've got some more pieces as well. So you've got 1 through 9 in their lineup. And that just makes them a very dangerous team, but they're going to need that because Wellston, Braxton Ingalls, in their 3-0 win over Fairland, struck out 11 Dragons. He's going to be able to come back and pitch. So he's been really good. Justin Jackson doubled in that game. Elijah Lung. This is a really good Wellston team, but a absolutely loaded Minford team as well.
Wellston's a great example of at the end of last year when you kind of talked about, kind of like we did McLean earlier, about what's coming. And now you're starting to see with Wellston and a lot of their sports on how it's starting to come. And I watched a little bit of the middle innings there. Again, that Wellston-Fairland game runs hard to come by.
Yeah.
Really hard to come by. And it just one little play here or there, and all of a sudden 1 run turns into 2 runs, 2 runs turns into 3 runs, game's over. And it was almost like first one to score and this game's going to win. You can almost sense it.
Yeah.
And that's tournament baseball. So now you move on, obviously, Minford and Wellston. It's an intriguing matchup. If Minford gets off to a good start, they're probably the heavy favorite in the game. Mm-hmm. But as we've seen, underdog hang around a little bit, get off to a good start, get deeper and deeper and deeper, the pressure starts to mount or whatever, and then you never know.
Yeah, it definitely can make things pretty interesting, and it should be a really fun game. That one will be on Tuesday. That will be on live stream. Or, correction, that game will be on Wednesday. I don't know why I put Tuesday on our on the notes here, but it will be on Wednesday. That will be on live stream from VA Memorial Stadium. And then the nightcap that evening will be maybe our best overall game, especially when you look at lineup depth on both sides. Ironton and Zane Trace on Wednesday as well, so look for that one. Should be outstanding. Ironton, Braden Baker struck out 13 Senators in that game, and we're not talking like in-office Senators. We're talking about the West Senators, who have been really solid the last couple weeks of the season. They seem like they've got some things going in the right direction, but overall ends up being a 4-0 win for Ironton in that game. Bryson Kearns, Ethan Sutton, Tanner Kleinman all had multiple hits. That's going through their lineup as well. It's giving some lineup depth. And then you've also got Carter Bridges, Jacob Hughes, Carson Freeman, Dawson Filial, along with Baker. It's outstanding depth, 1 through 9, for that Ironton team. They're going to be athletic. They're going to be fast. They're going to pitch the ball really well. They're going to play really good defense. And they're going to need that because when you talk lineup depth, the Zane Trace is lineup depth because you're led by SVC Player of the Year, Gunnar McCullough. Hits in the 3-hole, does a little bit of everything for them. I would guess he'll be on the bump for that game as well. Then you have Jacob Stauffer, Lucas Euler, Quentin Allen all hitting over 340 on the year. Those are at very different spots in the order. I think it's like 4, 6, 9 in their order, or guys hitting over 340. You have Mason Hartley, who not a great average, but his on-base percentage is outstanding. He stole 20-plus bases this year. I don't think he's been caught either. So when you steal 20 bases, you're walking once a game, and then if you get a hit, then it's just a bonus. He's got great speed at the top of the order. Noah Kaiser, Grady Stewart add to that as well. Jaron Wilson's hitting over 300 out of the 8-hole. This is a team that the depth of their team is unbelievable.
Yeah, the Zane Trace team, I feel like, is a great match for the VA Memorial Stadium ballpark too, because we talk about it on the air a lot. It's kind of like high school version of Coors Field. You comparison to a high school field all year long. You get out there and singles become doubles, doubles become triples. The outfield's huge, all sorts of room in the gap, and the Zane Trace team will usually not be overwhelmed by the fastball.
Yeah.
If you have a good breaking ball, good command, you might be able to keep them off balance. But more times than not, they're not going to strike out at a high total. Now, I say that, and you just gave me a picture total of the kids they're going to face that struck out 13 against a pretty good team. But I think defense becomes really, really important in this game. I expect both of these teams to put the ball in play just a little bit more than maybe what we saw in our 4 games the other day. And as a result, I think defenses in that big ballpark are going to get tested.
Yeah, and that one should be outstanding. Those games will be on Wednesday here on YouTube. Should be really fun games to watch. Start with Minford and Wellston, and then you'll have Ironton and Zane Trace, 2 really good games that will set up. The winners would go on to Thursday down at Ohio University for those games as well. So
big difference there, John, that's worthy of note on the show here, the back-to-back days. Some of these other divisions, the way that's a big difference.
Yes.
And look, I don't know why that happened the way it did or whatever, but that's not the same thing. Like there's no way around that other than to say that's kind of a tough break for the D5 there.
Yeah, but then on the other side of it, those games are Tuesday, Thursday, so they even have a day off in between. We'll start with Valley against Northwest. That'll be on Tuesday. The Indians needed 11 innings to beat Colgrove, who was the 15 seed. So, that's once again showing the depth of the Southeast District in Division 5. Nolan Barnett in that game went 10 innings. He struck out 13, only gave up 2 earned runs. Outstanding performance from Barnett. I would guess he'll get the ball against Northwest. It's kind of funny. Those schools are, 15 minutes from each other at the most. Like, you just get on the road and drive. You're just going to run into the other school. Yeah. And they're going down to OU to play. So it should be a really fun one there. In that game, Gabe McNeil came off the bench with a walk-off single to win it for the Indians in the 11th. Carson Powell, Kason Zieber, and Gavin Hanna all had multiple hits for Valley in that game. It feels like just athletically they keep coming at you, like with McNeil coming off the bench. Like, it's just guys just keep coming at you. You got Queen, that's a really good batter in there as well. It's a really nice lineup. That's why they were the 2 seed and why they had a chance to win the SOC 3 up until the last week of the season. But then you look at the Mohawks. The Mohawks with some really good pitching depth as well. Braxton Burris went the distance for them, only allowed 1 earned run and a 5-2 win over Piketon, a game where they scored 4 runs before making an out in the game and then kind of coasted their way from there. Weston Lang had 2 hits in that game. Levi Shepard, Chase Kingery, Peyton Wolf, Aiden Armbruster just give that lineup some really good depth as well. And typically, Barnett's not a huge strikeout guy. He's going to make you put the ball in play. And if the Mohawks are able to put the ball in play and get on base, they've shown the ability to steal some bases and make some things happen with their athleticism as well.
Yeah, I've had a lot of people ask me about Minford and Valley's offense this year, and I think they're certainly capable on certain nights of putting up big numbers. Now, for whatever reason, I think sometimes for as good as they are on paper and their record and so forth, the reason they get in so many dogfights is when you don't score, that's the types of games you're going to play, right? If you're not scoring more than 5 runs a game, who you blowing out?
Right.
So it's you're going to play close games. So I love what you just said there about if you're Northwest, can you get off to a decent start? Obviously, in their last game, they got off to the dream start of scoring 4 times. But I'm going to guess that's not going to happen in this game. But can you put some zeros up early and get yourself into the middle of the game? In a tied game or a 1-run game or whatever, if you can, then you got a chance. But I think Valley's offense really needs to look to get out early. Mm-hmm. I think that's where the Valleys and the Minfords can really bury you early. Is if they play out in front. Now, when you're facing that pitching and that defense, that gives you a little bit more of an overwhelming task.
Yeah, and that the depth of their lineup can really impact you in a big way when you're pitching against a team that you're trying to keep the 0 because they've already put up 3 or 4 runs on you. That can make things really difficult. And then the other matchup will be streamed here on YouTube. It will be at Tuesday at 1:30. So this maybe 24 hours from now. Lynchburg-Clay against Portsmouth. Man, this Lynchburg-Clay team we've been really high on throughout the season. We saw what they could do a couple different times on stream so far this year. But, man, this is a Portsmouth team that can really pitch. Trevin Brooks, 15 strikeouts in a 6-inning game in a 10-0 no-hitter against Alexander. He walked 1 batter. There's 78 strikes in the game. I think it was 59 or 78 pitches. I believe it was 59 strikes in the game. Just overwhelmed the strike zone. Just kept pouring them in at Alexander, and that led to obviously a lot of strikeouts in the game. Jacob Roth had a home run in the game. Cam Williams, Landon Malone, Kane Boggs. Once again, going through the depth of their lineup. Boggs hitting out of the 9-hole, getting multiple hits, using some speed. It makes them a really difficult team to match up against. But, man, when you talk about a difficult lineup, it's that Lynchburg-Clay lineup.
Well, the Lynchburg lineup's got some depth to it, too. Over half of their lineup, John, is in the top 10 of hitting in the Southern Hills Athletic Conference. Think about that for a second. You know what I mean? So, you look down through there, the Wells kids had a just terrific year. But beyond him, I know you and I were high on Elam Faust. Remember, he was out of the lineup briefly when they maybe lost a game or 2 there. We really, really like what he brings to the table as just a baseball player. Tanner Roberts, Eric Slack, Harley Lewis can really run. So, again, I like the balance of speed and power. They have a lot of 4- and 5-tool high school baseball players in their lineup. Because when I say power tool in high school baseball, it's not like softball.
Right.
We're not hitting the ball out of the ballpark. I'm looking for guys that can hammer it to the gap when I give them the power tool. That's just my opinion. Maybe people disagree. So I think this Lynchburg lineup, and I failed to mention another 2 or 3 that have had some really big hits for them this year. But nonetheless, they are really, really good, and they can do some nice things up and down that lineup. I know Beachy's another one, and again, I'm probably missing a couple, but they're just really, really good team.
Well, then they can run too, and it's just as you mentioned with Lewis and then Wells. What's it? Well, 34?
Wells 34 stolen bases.
34 stolen bases. Yeah. So keep him off base, because if you don't keep him off base, he's turning a single.
Well, Faust has 33.
Yeah, and that's missing a couple games as well. So it's just a team that they've got the wheels. They will, when they get on base, they will make some things happen. They'll make you make plays to get them out. And one of their losses late in the season, Wells was kept off base, and because of that, they just didn't score a lot. But if he gets on base, man, that lineup becomes super dangerous, because that's going to open up some holes. Because if you're holding him on, they're going to find that hole. If you're not holding him on, he's probably going first to third on a hit and run, or he's stealing second.
26 games. Listen to the Wells season he's had, Quinn Wells. 78 at-bats. He scored 41 times on 43 hits, 7 doubles, 4 triples, a home run, the 31 RBI, and the 34 stolen bases we mentioned. He's hitting .551. I mean, it's just a terrific all-around baseball player. And you're right. How do you at least slow down the run game? Well, the number one thing is you get him out.
Yeah.
But, I mean, that's easier said than done when an on-base percentage of 2 or 3 of these guys say that they get on base more than they don't. You know what I mean? Like, that's hard.
Yeah, that would be it would be fun to have that ability for sure. Now let's move to Division 6. In Division 6, man, we got some really good round 3s coming up. 2 of them will be on Tuesday. The middle game at VA Memorial Stadium, the 4 o'clock game, will be Huntington against Southeastern. You and Dewey will have the call on that one. Looking forward to hearing that on Tuesday. Round 3, Huntington and Southeastern. Huntington was the 1 seed, and I know this caused some disagreements throughout a little bit, but Huntington was the 1 seed. Southeastern was the 4 seed. Southeastern beat them twice in the regular season in the SVC and finished a couple spots ahead of them in the SVC, but that was one of those things we talked about, like, Southeastern just didn't play games. Like, I think they had like 6 less wins at the time of the draw. And just when you don't play games, you go 2-2 in the non-conference, where Huntington, I believe, went 8-0 at the time, and that's a Huntington team that is built for VA Memorial Stadium. Like you said, they had multiple triples the other day when they hit the gaps, and Coach Carroll is going to send them. He's going to put pressure on you everywhere. And then you also mentioned with Oyer, they were able to not have him go over 75 pitches, so he's available, and he's been a really big game pitcher for them.
Well, he has. He's someone that you trust, and what I mean by that is his efficiency and his experience. You know, look, he may go out and they may beat the ball all over the ballpark on him, and you'll tip your cap to the opponent, whatever. But like, I just don't see a scenario where he's just going to go out and not give his team a chance to be successful. He's pitched in so many big games. You were joking off the air that he's pitched for like 12 years now, right? Because it seems like from day one he's taken the ball in these big games, and it's just been a constant. And he throws a lot of strikes. Probably doesn't get enough credit for his stuff because he has good stuff, but because he doesn't overpower you, because he throws a lot of strike one and works ahead, and because he's efficient, rarely does Coach Carroll have to go and get him in the 4th or 5th inning unless he chooses to, right? He's available into I know he pitched in a game against Southeastern earlier this year where Southeastern won 2-1. If I'm not mistaken, that was like a scoreless game through 6 innings. Like, it was a real efficient game. And I expect that he'll do the same there. He'll take the ball, he'll throw a lot of strikes, and if Southeastern hits him, they hit him. But he he's going to kind of go in and control the heart rate on the big stage and give your team a chance.
He's their all-time wins leader for a reason. I would expect him, if he doesn't get the ball to start, he will be available to come in out of the bullpen if necessary. But man, this is a Huntington lineup. Their lineup depth is unbelievable. You got Frankie Hurst at the top, who can do just a little bit of everything. Troy McDonald Jr., like, just an athlete. And we had kind of talked about it off the air of like who's their second best pitcher, and it could be him, but like, do you take him off the field defensively, because he makes such an impact defensively?
He does.
And then you've got Hopkins, the freshman, hitting a 3-hole. Landon Lowry in the 4-hole. I mean, it's Calvin Hurst in the 5 had a triple the other day.
He did, and I think the Hardesty kid's a problem.
Yes.
Like he can really, really run. And we always talk about speed never slumps. You know what I mean? Like, it's one of those things where if he just puts the ball in play, he's the type of kid that can completely decide a game that you think could be 2-1, 3-2, where he gets on, he gets over, he gets in. You know what I mean? And a lot of times you don't have to get him over; you can just steal the base. Now that'll be a a tough thing to do against the likes of the pitching that they're going to see. But I think, again, you're 5 innings, 7 strikeouts, and you said up and down the lineup, so many different extra base hits. Once Huntington gets going, Coach Carroll, we talked about it, the way this team, I've said it several times this year, I feel like this team matches him stylistically to a T, and I think you see that a little bit in the pressure they put on you. Now, I do want to talk about one thing that I think highlights Sims Valley, and then I think it highlights a little bit of the preview of the Southeastern game. If you go back to Tanner Corn, and it was an unfortunate situation the other night. Again, I don't know exactly what I assume it was an arm thing. Yeah. I don't know that, just based on some of his mannerisms and so forth. But we talked about going in about how his athleticism on the mound was going to be a good thing against Huntington, a good matchup. And you were seeing that a little bit in his first 2 innings. He had the 2 strikeouts, but he was involved as a defender on 3 other outs. He made a great play on McDonald trying to bunt for a hit. He doubled up on the bad bunt, but he doubled up where he came off. And I thought Grady Holland's an outstanding baseball player. I thought he came into a tough spot there. Probably wasn't expecting the pitch that early. Yeah. But I really like the Sims Valley team, and what they went. Andy Stroud, I wanted to highlight him. I was impressed with him. Tanner Thompson, the Brammer kid. So nice team. It got away from him. Huntington can do that to you. But I wanted to mention that about the Corn matchup because I think Southeastern, be it Kessler or McWhorter, however they're going to decide to pitch this thing in whatever order, I think that's going to be a factor of fielding your position and your job in the run game and making sure you do a good job.
Yeah, and for Southeastern, they do have multiple options to be able to go. But, man, when McWhorter came in that Manchester game the other day, that was the hardest I've seen him throw. And then if he's throwing hard to go along with his stuff, and his ability to pitch, man, just good luck.
He faced 13 batters the other day and struck out 9 of them. Now, Applegate did have the 2-out triple in the one spot where they had a chance, because it was still 1-0 game when he did that, keep in mind. But he struck out 9 guys. He was locked in. And listen, that was a gamble. Now, Bryson Kessler was really good. I want to make sure I'm clear on that. And I apologize. We had a misspelling, I think, on the air early in the game. I called him Bryson. So Bryson Kessler, really, really good job. Did a good job. But as McWhorter had come in, that went to a whole different level. I think they hit a guy to start the 4th inning, and so he had inherited one guy. And then, like I said,
they immediately threw him out stealing.
That's right.
He definitely picked him off.
Yeah.
Called safe, and then the runner went, and he got thrown out. So. Took care of that pretty quick, but then
and I heard the Southeastern fan, that's baseball's version of the ball don't lie. So I thought that was kind of funny.
Yeah, kind of was. That's why I wouldn't have gone the first pitch, just because if it was there, But he was really, really good in that game. And then, to his credit, he came up with a huge hit, which he did. I thought the Hayslip kid almost made 2 phenomenal plays. He was so close. If Cheadle and McWhorter weren't so athletic, maybe he does make those plays. But I really was impressed with Applegate's arm. I think if he's able to continue pitching and get with some people that are going to be able to maybe develop keep that second pitch a little more developed, because he's throwing hard. And if he can get a little bit more control, because the control got away
from him. And listen, he's extremely talented. No one's going to doubt that. His ability to throw the baseball. Obviously, the walks got really high. I think Manchester pitching, before all said and done, I think walked 10 and hit 1. I think that's unofficial, but I think that's what I had. Obviously, you're not going to win a game in that sense, but man, he was really, really good early on. But you could start to see the pitch count come up. Give Southeastern hitters a lot of credit. You're going to strike out a lot when you face a kid like that, but their ability to take pitches, their ability to foul off pitches, right around the 3rd inning, you could start to see the pitch count, and you're like, wait, this isn't going to add up. Yeah. And they slowly but surely, and they finally 5th inning, finally able to get to him. But there, I want to give a shout out to Applegate, a good hitter as well, and then Hildenbrand and Colvin and Inman. I thought Parker Hayslip. Listen, we said this on the air. Statistically, he didn't have a blow you away year. something I like about his game. Like he just his baseball instincts created the run to go up 1-0. He missed the tag at first, and then remember he was rounding third and he read it right away. Never stopped and came home. But as you start to move closer and closer to this Southeastern and Huntington matchup, it's a great matchup, great pitching. It really is going to come down to some plus defensive plays, some good execution in the bunt game. And then that way, when you get the big swing, it's something you can cash in on to force it in the runs. Do you anticipate the 1-0, 2-1 game? Or because they're so familiar with each other, do you think it has more of a tendency to be a 4-3, 5-4 type of game?
I would think it would be more low scoring. I would think it would be more similar to that 2-1 game than the 10-3 game. I think it's it's a Southeastern team that when they can get going, kind of like Huntington, they can kind of pour it on you at the same time because they're a big confidence team where if something goes right, and that's kind of where they were able to keep scoring. Now, wild pitches helped, but they were able to keep scoring in that inning to kind of bury Manchester in that game. And I think this Huntington team once they see red, it's just they keep going because we didn't even mention Long McKnight near the bottom of that order too. So these are two really good baseball teams, and I think it shows once again the depth of the SVC as well, that these were two teams that were not in the title race at the end of the year.
That's been the case with the SVC for a long, long time, and now the conference is going to be well represented in a championship around someone going on the Sweet 16.
Yeah, definitely a good chance there. And then speaking of conference that's going to be well represented is going to be the TVC hockey, as you've got Eastern Reedsville against Waterford. Round 3, the first game was an outstanding game. It was a game that Eastern led 3-0 going into the 7th. Waterford scored 4 times. And then the bottom of Eastern's order was able to tie the game, and then Hunter Needs won it with a walk-off single. And their first matchup, the second matchup, was a 7-2 win for Eastern as they went on to win the TVC hockey crown. But if you look at the arms for Eastern, you got Ethan Edwards, Clayton Moore. Those two can both hit. Also, and then you got Needs, Lane Atha, Parker Durst, Caleb Abner, Blaze Gilmore, some really good length to that lineup too. This is an Eastern team, maybe not the most consistent, but man, when they're good, I mean, you see a 14-5 win over Jackson. They win their conference pretty handily. When they're in the right matchups, this is a phenomenal baseball team, extremely well coached as well.
Well, they are. They're extremely well coached and they're experienced. They've been on this stage, so their ability to hit the ground running, and they're not going to be nervous on this stage. Like the other day, they're up 4-0 before they make an out, I believe it was. Like it's a situation of, can Waterford settle into the game? Waterford knows them well enough to be able to go. But look, you're talking about arms for Eastern. Like the one kid hasn't lost since like his sophomore year or something. I think I heard the other day. So look, this is a deep team. They're an athletic team, but I do think it's interesting that it's a league team, because I think sometimes that league team will know them inside out even more so than any opponent they could play at this level. And maybe if you get into a close game, that could factor in somehow.
Well, then also it's not like, when we talk about Coach Stewart being a really good coach, it's not like Waterford's not really well coached as well. They're an outstanding team that we see year in, year out at this level.
Every year.
They play an outstanding non-conference schedule as well. They've got to 19 wins. You're playing the Warrens that are really good. You're playing some teams from West Virginia. You're playing teams from the East. You're competing at a high level each and every night, so that sometimes you have a lot more losses, and that's where you kind of get bumped down a little bit. Still we're the 3 seed, so it's still.
And you and I were high on Peebles, so I mean that's an impressive pitching performance to hold that group to 1 run.
Yeah,
so.
Corbin Stark holds them to 1 run and a 7-1 win. Yeah. Look for that Peebles team next year to be one to keep an eye out
completely.
on.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about the teams that lost in those games here in a minute, but Brondoak, Hayden Jones, Avery Potmeyer, you mix in Stark. This is a lineup with a lot of nice pieces for Waterford as well. Man, it's a should be a really fun matchup at OU on Tuesday. So that's going to be down there. Make sure you check out some updates on that. Those are going to be two really good games in Division 6. But if we go to the teams that Eastern and Waterford beat, let's start with Peebles first. Peebles, very young, kind of like that Porcelain-Clay team that we'll talk about a little bit in Division 7. I'm really excited to see this Peebles team in the future.
Yeah, I agree. When we had them there at the VA, I said probably 3 or 4 times on air that night that, man, this is one of the more athletic Peebles teams I've seen in years, in terms of competing against them and so forth. They have a lot of their athletes out. They have good arms. I think they're only going to get bigger, faster, stronger, which will help their range a little bit. It'll help their offensive punch, in terms of the pop off the bat. I think there's a lot of things to like, a lot of bright side.
Yeah, and then if you look over at Paint Valley, who was able to beat Adena, a league opponent, to get to that game against Eastern. They're going to lose a lot, but a nice little turnaround season. Good first year for Coach Mettler.
Good to see the senior class stay with it and win what would have been a version of a sectional championship behind the arm of Jace Reinhardt and the battery mate there, Preston Faber. Owen Donahue's been a 4-year starter for them there as well. But look, they'll have some different pieces back that they can.
The Woods kid had a really nice year.
Woods kid had freshman year, and then the Ison kid really blossomed in. Ison had come in about a week or two ago there in a situation, a big Southeastern win where that game could have got away, and he stepped up. So I think his arm gives them a direction to go next year as well. But no, Coach Mettler, outstanding job this year, and I was glad to see that senior group stay the course and get a sectional championship.
Yeah, it's nice for them as well. So if you look, once again, that's going to be on Tuesday. Huntington against Southeastern will be on the SOSA YouTube page, which you're watching here. And then also Eastern Reedsville against Waterford. That will be at Ohio University. So we'll have updates on that game, but no live stream on that. There may be live streams elsewhere. Just make sure you look for them and make sure they're from reputable sources and not just like clicking and giving credit card information. It will be free wherever it's at. So make sure you pay attention to that for those games, and really looking forward to seeing the opportunities for those teams if they get beyond there, which we'll talk about on next week's show for whoever gets out of those games for moving on to the regionals. So one more division to go. In this last division, it will be Division 7, who really, have some fun matchups coming up there. These are all going to be at Logan. So if you're in the area, make sure you check out these games. On Tuesday, you've got Green against Southern and Trimble against Notre Dame. Those are going to be some, especially that Trimble and Notre Dame game. If you're going 1 against 1 in those games, that should be a really fun matchup.
Oh, no question about it. I mean, when you start to throw some of those arms out there, that's what makes this time of year really, really fun, especially in that first round match.
Yeah, if you get Cassidy against Akeho in that first matchup, could be a really low-scoring game. Cassidy's got the ability to hit it out of the ballpark as well for Notre Dame, but for Green, they've got some options on this. Now, Southern is no one to take lightly, but do you go with Knapp in the first one, or you try to hold Knapp out until the second matchup? Because when John Knapp pitches, this team is on another level. But it's Tuesday, Thursday, so you'd have a 1 day. So maybe you wait and you try to use them in relief. You've got options if you're Green in this instance.
Listen, you're always taking a risk when you go out, but I mean, I know that Green is the 1 seed because they have multiple arms as well. So look, I'm glad I'm not making that decision. All I would throw in is we just did a segment on the TVC hockey, and I'd be real careful going in and taking Racing Southern lightly, because that they've been battle tested and they're going to be ready to go as well.
Yeah, on the year, John Knapp with a 0.97 ERA. 9-1 on the year, 58 innings pitched, 97 strikeouts. But you have Gabe Blevins, who in 42 1/3 innings has a 0.66 ERA and has 4-1 on the year. think you got some decent options if you go to Case McIntyre. He's a 1.98. He's 3-1 on the season with 25 strikeouts and 28 innings. So you've got 3 really good options there. Maybe you go your best defense in that first one, and maybe you just wait for Knapp late, or you just say, hey, I love these options. We got to get there first.
Well, a lot of it goes back to the offense. I mean, does the offense get started early and often, or is it one of those games where your offense puts you in a dogfight where you're into the 4th and 5th inning and it's still a scoreless game, or it's a 1-0 game, or that type of thing? So no, those are the tough decisions to make. You know your team well. You identify your pitching roles throughout the year so that you're ready this time of year. But there's going to be some really good pitching matchups throughout that first round, no matter how they go.
Well, then also for Green, Jenkins. Riddick Jenkins and Blevins have each scored 24 times this year. Blevins leads them in hitting right around 470 on the year, so they've got some really nice offense. 20-4 for a reason, but as you said, coming out of the TVC Hockey, Southern will be battle tested.
Well, no question about it. And if you're Southern, you're looking at it as no one's going to give us a lot of a chance in a 1-9 matchup. So, look, we've come out of this TVC Hockey. They've lost 4 times. Let's go see if we can't start early and get after them. So I think the first couple innings really important for Southern in that game.
Yes, I agree with that. You got to try to get out and get on the board early, or at the very least throw zeros up on the other side.
Yeah.
And then that Trimble Notre Dame game, I just think has the ability to possibly be one of the games to watch for in the entire tournament because of what the top high end pitching can be. Notre Dame, when they're playing their best, can play with anybody, but at the same time, if they're not playing their best, that's why they finished 4th in a 5-team league.
Yeah, Trimble just has a way of hanging around, right? They're going to throw a lot of strikes. They're going to make the routine plays. Their questions probably, can they get enough offense? Mm-hmm. And that might be at the end the thing that ends up deciding this one. But if Trimble could get some early offense, they're in a position where their pitching and defense can certainly compete at this level.
Mm-hmm. And then if you look at pitching on the other side, as we said, with Cassidy, he's only 2-3 with a 2.83 ERA on the year, but 43 strikeouts in 34 innings. McGraw's been really good for them as well, 53 strikeouts in 47 innings, 2.68 ERA. So they've got options too. But for them, it's the defensive side, and then also can they get enough offense?
No question about it. And as you're rattling off those things, I think a big thing for Trimble in this game, and I would even think for Southern as well, is can you cut the strikeouts in half? I mean, like you're rattling off guys that are striking out well over 1 per inning, in some cases almost 2. Can you put the ball in play and force the defense to make some plays? Because sometimes at this level, now all of a sudden you can force some mistakes, and that can help aid your offense a little bit.
Yeah, they got 3 home runs this year from Cassidy, 2 from Kingery. So, I mean, they've got some pop in their bat for Notre Dame. So, can they get an extra base hit to make it to where that that elite infield defense for Trimble isn't as much of a factor?
No question.
And then let's move over to Wednesday, which will be one of the games we talked about of this one could be a classic. South Webster against Whiteoak. We'll start that off, and then Clay against Ironton St. Joe for the 3rd time. Those games will be Wednesday at Logan. The Whiteoak and South Webster game really will come down to Isaiah Clift, what he's able to do against this South Webster team, because when he's on, and this is a South Webster team that is outstanding, as we've talked about throughout the year. We have high aspirations for them and kind of think their ceiling's super high. But if anyone can bring you down to the floor, it's Isaiah Clift.
Well, we've mentioned this for 2 weeks now, that I feel like South Webster is certainly the best team in this bracket,
yes,
top to bottom. But the way baseball works out is sometimes whoever's got the ball on the other side is a factor. Clift is so unique because he throws it from the left side, and he throws with good velocity, good off-speed pitch. Not going to have a lot of efficiency problems. But then being a left-hander as well, he's really, really good at controlling the run game from first to second. Mm-hmm. Also, pretty good athleticism in terms of their bunt coverage and so forth. So he's going to force you to beat him. Yeah, I mean, he's not going to beat himself on very many nights, and he's really hard to even small ball against. So I'm just intrigued by the matchup. I think it can be a really fun baseball game to watch. And I think anytime, what do you need to take down the top dog? You need a good pitcher. Well, that's what you got. Mm-hmm. So I think the Clay and St. Joe's, not taking anything away from them in the bracket either, because I think they're good teams. They've had good years. But this South Webster team plays against a whole different level of competition. Mm-hmm. I mean, I hope I don't offend people by saying that's just a fact. Like the league that they're playing in comparison to what these other teams are playing night in, night out is completely different. Mm-hmm. But when you get an elite pitcher and that pitcher is on that night, anything can happen in the game of baseball, and that's what makes it such a great game.
Well, then now if you're also looking at the start of the season where it was a 12-2 game where South Webster beat Whiteoak with Clift on the mound.
Yep.
He goes 5 innings, gives up 4 unearned runs. So if his defense is better behind him, maybe those 4 unearned runs become 0.
But again, what causes the errors? The contact. You see what I'm saying? So like if I just said
only struck out 5 times.
Yeah. Can you cut down, because Cliff's been getting 10 strikeouts a game, right? Can you cut a pitcher's strikeouts in half and force high school defenses to make plays? So in that situation, albeit early in the year with a young team, you get the unearned runs. That formula right there could work again. But South Webster limit the strikeouts, ball and play. They're very athletic. You know they're going to get down the line well, put pressure on the defense, and that can be a factor because you look around the infield and there's some youth there for Whiteoak. Now that youth, 20-plus games into the year, you would like to think has made great strides, but there's still sometimes with youth, you lack a little arm strength, you lack a little range. So a team like South Webster, putting the ball in play, you take Clift out of the equation and force other people to make plays.
Yeah, but it's making those plays is what makes them, is going to be the difference in that game for Whiteoak. Are they going to be able to make the plays? Because you know that South Webster team is going to put the ball in play and maybe put the ball out of play, because Easton Large, only a freshman, homered the other day as well. So I mean, you've got the Bernards. You got Large, McClintock, over 100 career hits. Benite Andrews, an outstanding arm. It's a South Webster team that we think very highly of, and I think they're going to be able to put the ball in play. It's just, when they do, can Whiteoak make plays?
That's it. I'm excited to see it play out. I also peeked ahead there. We talked about this maybe briefly last week. This is the bracket that comes, unfortunately, out into the regional. Whoever comes out of this one will play Newark Catholic. Well, we assume Newark Catholic.
Yeah, most likely on that. And then on the other side, Clay did beat Ironton St. Joe twice in the regular season. One of them was a 3-1 game. The other one got out of hand. But and this is a really fun team from Clay. Obviously, we've talked about Evan Ryder throughout the year, the sophomore, their leadoff guy, who just does a little bit of everything, and then they're just so young after him, but they make plays. Noah Woods is really talented for them behind the plate. This is a Clay team that I think we have some really high thoughts on, because look what they did in the end of the year. So they end up 20-7. They finished second in their conference. At the end of the year, I think they might have realized that they were a little further along than what they originally thought. So the end of the year, they played Portsmouth, Valley, they played Southern, and Minford after their league season ended. They lose 4-2 to Portsmouth. They beat Valley 7-6. They lose to Minford 7-5. So, I mean, they're going out and competing with some really good teams as well. So they're giving them, their young kids, a chance to see some good arms, some good teams, and get themselves maybe a little more prepped as far as pitching, because they're facing really good lineups too.
Yeah, no question. And I think what I've found in watching Ironton St. Joe's play, I think that they could be a really tough semifinal opponent. I would question their depth with it being back-to-back days if they did pull the upset over Clay. But with Clay, I agree with you. I think they have proven their number one's elite. I think they've even started to prove to themselves that, wait a minute, our 2 and 3 are capable against some pretty good opponents as well. I think Clay becomes a real dark horse in this particular bracket. I think that would be a really dangerous opponent assuming South Webster does advance, and if Whiteoak pulls the upset and Clay gets into a 2 versus 2 matchup, that's interesting.
Yep.
But again, that's all based on can South Webster hold serve there and move out.
Yeah, so should be some really outstanding tournaments throughout this week. So by next week's episode, we'll know who's going on to the regionals. Let's hope for some better weather this week because
should be a little better.
Our next, it's got to be better than what it was last week. But we'll talk a good bit about softball coming up here. But man, before we get to that, it just looks like it's going to be a really fun week. As far as baseball goes in our area. So get out, watch a lot of good baseball. Once again, Tuesday we'll have 3 streams. Is that 100%?
Well, Tuesday, Wednesday, a little bit of rain. The rest of the week, not as bad. But Tuesday, a little bit of afternoon opportunity. So we could be in a little bit of trouble there depending on how hard. But again, that's where the VA is amazing because you think of that rain that we had the other day, that would have wiped out 3.5 baseball games. Instead, we played 4.
Right. Yeah. Just that downpour probably wipes out
easily.
Yeah. So that's where turf is outstanding, and that's where whenever it's offered, I just don't see a reason.
It's got to be a tournament.
Yeah.
It has to be a tournament requirement.
Yes, I would agree with that completely. So let's move to softball now, and we'll go to a place that saw a major upset, which will start in Division 3. Unioto beats Chillicothe 4-2 in a district semifinal game. They end up going to the district final and losing to Tri-Valley out of the East, 11-5. We'll talk a little bit about that game. But, man, Macy Cox for Unioto. This is a kid who had never pitched before last summer, just at all. And just volunteered to go in and do it, and then goes out and throws a 3-hitter against one of the best offenses that we have in our area in Chillicothe in a 4-2 win. She also drove in a run in the game, was just huge for them. Mackenzie Eisel, speaking of kids stepping up at the biggest time of their career, she had a big moment when she was a sophomore, helping get them to the Sweet 16 there. She homers in this game. It's her first ever home run. Just save it to the best possible time. She homers. Then Maddie Tuttle had a double, scored a run, and then also had a huge catch to end the game. The fence there at Logan is 188 feet. It was a ball hit about 187 feet and 10 inches. If she hits the fence first before catch the ball, she might accidentally knock the ball over, was how close it was to a home run, but an outstanding play and an outstanding win for Unioto.
No, it really was. Listen, one that if I'm just being honest, I admit when I'm wrong, I didn't see coming at all. And just I think what the SVC Softball League has shown over the week here is the top half of it in particular is really, really good. And they went toe-to-toe, and they were ready. And as you said, you get good pitching. You get some timely hitting, some clutch hitting, and then usually in an upset you need a big-time defensive player too, and you check. Yep. You know what I mean? And there you go. But a lot of credit to the Lady Shermans there. I know they would go on to lose in the next round, but man, that was probably baseball or softball one of the biggest one of those. Take a second look at the score. What was that score there? You know what I mean?
Oh, I just kept looking at it throughout the day. I'm like, okay, well, Carson's doing the updates. I'm doing a couple other things. I'm just like, wait, that's still the score. How is that still? Okay, they're going to start score. Well, they never did. And, for Unioto, they lost 9-1 early in the season to Chillicothe, and those kids all play together throughout. And this is a Unioto team that, throughout the year, what we talked about was their inability to cut down on run prevention. It just wasn't very good. I mean, they won a game 18-16 late in the year to start their streak at the end of the year. But what was that? 18. They could score 14. That was the best offense in Unioto softball history, which, got to an Elite 8 2 years ago with a team that hit 45 home runs. This team scored more runs. Their ability to score 1 through 9 was unbelievable because you had Welch, Tuttle, I think Haley Hall as well. All were 7+ home runs on the season. Cox can really hit. Isel in the 4-hole could really hit. Hutton really came along throughout. Kendall Corcoran had an RBI in both of their district games. Whitney Morrison got going later in the year. It's just a team that, and that was without mentioning McKenna Williams too. It's a team that 1 through 9 they could flat out hit the ball, and it was just they could score runs. It was just you didn't know if they could slow down at Chillicothe, and obviously they were able to.
That's the X factor, is their ability to for the run prevention. I think you said that really, really well there. You get in a situation where throughout the SVC this year, the requirement was to hit. Mm-hmm. You know, in fairness to the run prevention, like nobody's had run prevention. I mean, we're going to talk about 2 SVC teams that scored 23 runs in a district championship game here in a second against each other. So, like, it's a situation where there's a lot of depth to the conference this year, and then the top half was really elite. So that certainly makes you battle tested. And what happens is teams that know each other really well, they're probably pitching around certain people, and you're picking and choosing who you want to go out. The Isel home run's obviously really, really a big swing in the game. And then, as you said, you hit one on offense, you take one away on defense, and that usually adds up to being able to win a close one.
Yep, and then in that game on Saturday, they had a home run from Macy Cox and Mackenzie Welch. Another 2-hit game for Isel. Haley Hall doubled as well in that game. But the difference in that was the home run ball, as Tri-Valley had 4 home runs versus Unioto's 2 in the game. So nice season for them. 18 wins for Unioto. With an unknown in the circle, they've got a really nice 8th grade group coming up. It's just finding the arm for the circle is going to be huge for them, because obviously they can score runs. It's just going to be run prevention. But man, this Chillicothe team's got a lot to look forward to for next year.
No, they do. And look, we said this with Jackson last week when we highlighted the Waverly win over Jackson. The Jackson Chillicothe, they kind of beat each other up there in that final week, and to be honest, neither rebounded really. Mm-hmm. They kind of. I don't know that the FAC had, now that it plays out, I don't know that the FAC had unbelievable depth to it on the softball side, but those 2 teams were really, really good. But I just think they kind of beat each other to death, and then come tournament time, both just kind of had some holes, and they ran into an opponent that were able to take advantage of it.
Yeah, and that's kind of is what happened for them, but look for them to turn it around.
No question about that. They're going to be really good.
They're going to be really good next year as well. So let's go to maybe the most exciting 3 games that you could have possibly had over at Logan. Logan got their money's worth for hosting these games in Division 4. Just unbelievable what these games ended up being. And I'll start with probably the calmest of all of them was a 5-3 win for Waverly over South Point. Lexi Smith struck out 7 in that game, scattered only 3 hits. She had an RBI double in the game. Addie Hudnall homered in the 3rd inning of that game. Like it feels like it was like weeks ago. It wasn't even a week ago at this point. She had a 3-run blast and a 2-2 game that made it 5-2. She broke the Waverly home run record of Ava Robertson, who's probably going to break it next year, as she's got another year left. Robertson went 3 for 3 with an RBI and a run scored in that game. Hayden Jones was really good in the outfield. She made a big play late. Wasn't as much up against the fence as Tuttle was a couple days later, but was pretty close to the warning track on it. Coda Copley for South Point was really good. She struck out 10. They were able to time her up a little bit, and it led to a lot of hits, but I thought she did a good job of kind of controlling the game outside of the Hudnall home run. She went 2 for 4 and had 2 runs, scored. She finished her season with 67 hits on the year. Yeah. Only a sophomore. 67 hits. She's over 400 career strikeouts. That 67 hits was 1 hit away from tying for second in the Southeast District, and I think it was like 4 away from the record. Allison Cox from St. Trace has the record for the Southeast District. Just an unbelievable sophomore season for her. Addison Copley had a 2-run homer in that game, and Coda Copley was the one that was up, with the tying run on at the plate for her, and it looked like when it came off the bat, like it had a chance to get out, and it just came up a couple of feet short.
Yeah, it's been the Division IV tournament overall. I mean, it's just been kind of a whole postseason in itself. It's just the exciting back and forth, all the offense. You talk about run prevention. That hasn't been the theme of the tournament for sure. But some of these offenses and their ability to leave the yard at multiple places in the order and how they can score. It's just been it's been wild. Like we've highlighted it several times here on SOSA Overtime. The home run totals are just adding up in a hurry on the softball side, and Division IV tournament certainly illustrated that.
And speaking of some home runs, this game was so much fun. Kind of had to put out a video because it didn't finish, and I had prior. I was going to be elsewhere the next day, so had to go back. It was a game that was so good it had to finish on the next day. Through 7 innings, it was Logan Elm and Gallia Academy tied at 12 in a game that was just back and forth throughout. They were just taking big swings at each other. Kendall Eddy with a 2-run homer, Chloe Bennett with a 2-run homer, all early. So they jump out to a quick lead. And then Riley Wolf hits a 3-run homer for Logan Elm to get them back into it. Sadie Binkley had a big game offensively. She gives them the lead. It just felt like whoever, I don't know, because it wasn't like who was going to come up last was going to win it, but it was like whoever could just counter the big swing. And man, they both just countered each other in huge ways. So Logan Elm up 3 going into the 6th. You get an Ava Angel 2-run homer. And then 3 batters later, Kenzie Mitchell hits a 3-run shot to take an 11-9 lead. It was an unbelievable game. Then it got even crazier because Lucy Kaplinger for Logan Elm hits her 2nd home run of the year, hits it off the scoreboard, a 3-run shot. So they go up 12-11 going into the bottom with 2 outs. Chloe Bennett comes up, hits a double to right, and I'm sitting there like, I don't know if I'm sitting there to second because they're 100% going to walk Ava Angel, which they did. She's going to Minnesota for a reason.
Yeah.
You get to Maggie Davis afterwards. First pitch strike, second pitch hits her. Like, glances off her elbow. Ties it at 12. So it was, to me, 100% the right move to walk her. Doesn't matter, like, how good Davis is, which she proved how good she was the next time they suited up.
Yeah.
But they end up getting it to... They get an extra inning out of it. They had to come back. They call it after 7. They come back 2 days later. They go up 14-12. They end up beating Logan Elm 14-12. There's an outstanding Logan Elm team, too. So, great win for Gallia Academy. And then you come back and you play a better game. Like, just a unbelievable game. It was a game where Ava Angel, Maggie Davis go back-to-back twice in the game. In the 7th, they're down 6-4. Chloe Bennett gets on to start. You can't walk Angel. And she hits a homer.
Now, I don't think they went back-to-back the first time.
Okay.
Am I wrong on that? I think Angel homered early in the game. So then what happened was they walked her in a 4-1 game or whatever, which was the right move. And then Davis hits one out. Okay, so then later on, and give Lexi Smith a lot of credit. She's pitched them through this and whatever. She's provided some offense herself, and she's had some big swings. Then they get into the last inning, and Bennett had come on in relief and Waverly had gone up 6-4, I think it was. Then that's when Bennett led off with the hit, and they pitched to Angel. And that time she hits one out on a 2-strike pitch, and then Davis comes up with the swing there to walk it off. And when she hit that one, everybody in the ballpark knew it was one of those off the bat where it was gone, and celebrations on.
Pretty amazing moment for the Gallia Academy softball program. You have one of your best players ever without knowing the entirety of the program, and Ava Angel, and then you back her up with some elite players, and you surround her in the order with some really talented players as
That's
well,
it.
because you
Being
have
able to
Bennett,
protect.
in front of her, who's going to get on base, as we highlighted a couple weeks ago here on kind of our underappreciated players, and then you've got the protection behind her in Davis, because when you do walk her, well, Davis hits one out. Well, then you go down in the order even more. You have Mitchell, who hit the big home run against Logan Elm. You had Eddie, who had a big home run against Logan Elm. Eddie played outstanding defense at third base against Logan Elm too. I mean, this is a team that, when we talk about the SVC in baseball with their depth, think about the depth of the OVC in softball. If this was a team that, at best finishes fourth, and it's just, that's a really good team.
Well, and Angel's arm and center impacted the game
Yes.
as well too, because she held two kids up at third base that in most situations, or at least sent, probably scored.
Yeah, and I without seeing her hit, because obviously when you see the totals, they finished fifth in the OVC. When you see the totals, you're like, okay, obviously she can hit.
Yes.
But then just watching her track the ball in the outfield,
Yeah.
you're like, okay, I
Just
get
different.
I get
Yeah.
it. Like immediately.
Well, we talk about
Yeah.
the 5-tool players, and it's just every tool's there.
Mm-hmm.
Just so athletic, strong arm. Obviously, it's for power.
Yeah, and
I
then
mean-
if you can track the fly balls, you can get to the fence. She almost, if the fence isn't taller, probably has a chance to rob a home run in that Logan Elm game as well. I mean, because she got to the fence, it's just a little bit too high. Like if she had a few more feet, she's catching the Kaplinger ball that goes off the scoreboard.
Right.
But yeah, it's just, that's an outstanding team, and once again just kind of shows the depth of the OVC. So you had mentioned John Glenn, correct? In the next
John
round?
Glenn was the one that that they'll have in the regional there. I had that pulled up a second ago here. Let me see if I can pull that right back up for us. Yes, John Glenn on the 27th at 2:00 and that's at Philo's softball field. And then if they would be able to win in that region, coming out of that region 13, it's the Newark-Licking Valley versus Harrison Central.
I guess
winner
that's Licking Valley would be my guess on that. So.
would be the 2 days later on the 29th.
So, that's
And
a really
that remains at Philo.
that's a really good John Glenn program. But at the same time, when you can hit the way they can offensively, you're going to have a chance no matter what, because when you're putting up runs at the clip they're doing against really good pitchers too. Because Sadie Binkley got Logan Elm to a state tournament 2 years ago, and then Lexi Smith is an outstanding pitcher as well for Waverly. Just overall, that just shows the depth of their lineup and what that program is going to be overall in the next few seasons. So
Right.
Congratulations to them on that. Now let's move to Division 5, where I think my headline here is pretty reliable. Wheelersburg's a machine. Like this was like we're like, oh, this might be the most gettable Wheelersburg team. They're not. They're the same. I mean, it's the same team. And 21-0, 11-0 against two good teams. Just completely dominated the games. Knocked the ball at the ballpark. They've got some good seniors. They've got some outstanding underclassmen. They got a real shot at another title. It's a team that they have some losses throughout the year. Once again, they've been the closest to beat Kenton Ridge all year. They were up on them in the bottom of the seventh. Maybe they lose that game because they lose a coin flip on who's going to be the home team. It's just, the seniors with Ava Eastep, who's going to go on to play at the next level. Miley Jo Gleam, another one that is Jalen Drake. They've been playing really well for them. Then you mix in the lineup with Lauren Truitt, Maddie Jennings, Mackenzie Mullins, Libby Allen, Lana Howard, Lainey Skeen's playing a good first base for them as well. And then Emmy Eaton is doing a really good job in the circle, but also at the plate. It just feels like they're getting better night in, night out, shockingly, that they're just going to keep improving when you've got one of the best coaches in the state. this is just a Wheelersburg team that's just a machine. It feels like, you think that they might have to reload, but might have to rebuild a little, but they just reload every year.
Yeah, it's what's impressive is how focused and ready they are from the first pitch. Sometimes what you see is you'll see a team kind of have some inconsistencies or so forth. But what I love about the word machine is it certainly is like a locked and loaded every time, like from the word go. I mean, if they're better than an opponent, it's not like they don't hang around and put them away in the fourth inning like they put them away in the first inning. Like it's insane. They're pitching at a high level, they're defending at a high level, but the run totals they're putting up against some pretty good teams and some pretty good pitchers throughout the end of the regular season and the tournament. Certainly, you can tell that they're used to peaking right now and going, and they're starting to really take off.
Well, you saw some more losses throughout the year for them. But that's also because you're playing some elite teams, and just like sometimes you just lose. I mean, it's just even a machine every once in a while does lose, and it's just when you're playing those elite teams, you can maybe come up just a little bit short from time to time, but really doesn't happen very often, and that's why you see them at the state level each and every year, and it wouldn't surprise me if they got there once again this year.
Well, they've got a favorable matchup here in the next round with Claymont, and then Southeast District opportunity in the other half of the bracket. We'll talk about Megs in a second, but it's just hard to find a weakness with Wheelersburg because of the way they're pitching and defending to go along with it.
Yeah, and you knew the offense was going to be there, but the pitching and defense seemingly is getting on the correct level for themselves.
Where all these other good teams go through times where they struggle to have run prevention, that's not even a factor with them either.
No, and it just shows why they are what they are. So, as you mentioned, a favorable matchup with Claymont, who's playing well at this time, 17-12 on the season, though. That'll be at Ohio University on Wednesday. Claymont won their district as a 7th seed, so congrats to them. But your present for the Mustangs is you get to go play Wheelersburg.
Yeah.
Hey, you take that present in the Sweet 16.
No question about it. 17-12, and you're going to go to the regional, and then you're going to get beaten in a couple of weeks. You're going to be like, well, we got beat by the state champion.
You take it. Yeah. And then let's move down to one of the other teams in that Southeast regional, or in that Ohio University regional. Megs wins their first district title since 1980. Just an outstanding job for the Marauders. 25-2 on the season. Hitting, pitching, defense. It's a little bit of everything. We've talked about them for the last few weeks because Natalie Goods put up those just crazy numbers, what she was able to do in the circle anyway. But she was really good at the plate. Went 3 for 4 in their 7-2 win over Southeastern. Aubrey Newell, Kylie Kranick, and Bella Roush all doubled. Newell, Roush, and Ava Horn also had multiple hits in the game. This is a team that has a really deep lineup as well. Play really good defense, and then in the circle, you're elite.
I want to start with what the first thing you read there, the 1980. I think this is another argument for me in the 7 divisions. Yes. Because if you go back into the 80s, they had the 3 classes, and then they went to the 4 divisions. Well, Megs was a team. Pomeroy Megs is who we're talking about here for people outside of the TVC that don't know. Pomeroy Megs has always been a team that throughout that a lot of that time period fought themselves, John, probably through being one of the smallest Division II schools in Ohio. They would occasionally get into the D3 and they'd have a little bit more success in the sectional round. I think what we're seeing here with the 7 divisions is it's starting to properly spread some of this enrollment out, and I think a team like Megs, an athletic program like Megs, is going to benefit from it greatly. And that's what you see here, 25-2. There's pretty good softball being played at the top part of that TVC Ohio, so I think that was legit. And then they've got out and they've spread. Look, I've been real impressed with their ability to do a little bit of everything. They have been able to win some games with pitching and defense. When the offense has been required, they've been able to turn it up a notch. They might not be hitting the ball out of the ballpark quite at the rate some of these other programs are, but they've shown the ability to score when they need to. And look, they're a complete team that will head off into regional play and see what happens.
Yeah, they're going to take on a really good Tusky Valley team, 23-4 from the East, second straight district title for the Trojans. Now, last year, they went and played TVC Ohio brethren in Wellston. Wellston beat them 11-0 in that Sweet 16 game. So, I mean, I think for Megs, you see it as at least it's a gettable game. It's a team that, you know, last time they came down did not have very much success, and it was against a team that they've played against for years. And with good in the circle, you're going to feel at least pretty good about yourself if you're the Marauders in that game. Obviously, you're in the same regional as Wheelersburg, but at the same time, it's like at some point, if Wheelersburg's going to go win the state championship, you got to play them at some point. So why not push that as far? Make your run as long as possible and give yourself a chance to maybe break through to the Final Four.
Yeah, no question. And that's what's neat about it. Each step of the way, you gain an experience. You feel a little bit better about it the next time you're there. And let's see what happens.
Yeah, and then before we move on, Southeastern reached their first ever district championship game. If you haven't seen it on the SOSA Ohio website, make sure you check out the article about Coach Chris Skaggs, one of the biggest personalities and just people in general in the Chillicothe athletic area. Like, just he does a great job with working with softball, but also if you saw the Southeastern teams in the early 2000s in basketball, he scored almost 1,500 points. And
phenomenal play.
Yeah, and just going through some health issues, but still was able to help get his team to that next level. They lose some really good seniors in there. Especially Gracie Brown, Allie Fisher at the top of the order, but man, they've got some really good pieces. And Kylie Williams can flat out pitch.
Yeah, I like where she's coming, and I think if she can take the next step, she might actually be the X factor in the SVC and in the Southeast District to an extent next year in terms of at least in some of the early rounds, just because we've said it, man. But softball offense is just booming. Mm-hmm. At some point, you're going to need an arm to get something under control.
Yeah, and they've, it was a nice year for Southeastern. They win 20 games, and just
it is a great article. You really owe it to yourself to go. And Chris, just shout out to you. Been praying for you and your family. Just awesome person. Does a lot for people, and you can tell in the Southeastern community what he means. Is you talk to a lot of different people, and you get the same elevator speech across the board, which. It doesn't surprise you.
Yeah, and I have somewhere in my house. There's a picture of me in Little League standing next to him on first base, and he's playing for London.
Hey, not to get off topic, man. He is a player. In all my years, I've never coached against. I would compare it maybe to the great Zach Farmer in baseball. Mm-hmm. I've never coached against someone from a game plan standpoint. Obviously, I had a lot of talent around him, which helped too. But like that, you just felt so helpless on like where you almost just tossed the clipboard down. Yeah, I don't know what to do with it.
Well, you're trying to get in position defensively to take a charge.
Yeah,
dude, he would get into like a circle and would just stay in the circle. He wouldn't physically for how big he was. Yeah. Wouldn't throw an elbow. Wouldn't do anything. It was just boom, boom, and made everything.
And he didn't get enough credit for how much he would run the floor because. Yeah. That team certainly didn't play slow.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, they'd go out and they'd drop 75, 80, 85, 90 on you in a heartbeat. Like, but so he allowed them to play a little pace, too.
Yeah, Tristan Daddy was so good, too.
He was good.
I mean, and Jason Day, obviously that was a tough thing recently as well, but he was an outstanding player for them. And, just some outstanding pieces for that Southeastern community. So congratulations to them on an outstanding season. But the top of the SVC this year belonged to Piketon, and man, Adina made them work for it 3 times, and including once in the district final. But congratulations to Piketon, once again, district champions.
Yeah, and look, we were talking about how you could get to the SVC final. We acknowledged that Ironton was going to be the favorite, but Adina give them a lot of credit. You talk about pitched game.
Yes.
That was one they pitched well to get there, and Bosser was terrific there, going toe to toe with some of Ironton's best and getting some big strikeouts. I don't know what order you want to go into it. You want to start and work our way backwards, or you want to look at the semifinal?
Let's go to that game first.
Okay, the Adina Ironton game was a fascinating game. It was a low scoring game, really well pitched. And what I loved about it was the deciding run was with 2 outs, I believe. Dalton goes to the bunt, and just her speed creates a mistake, and she gets on. Then playing in a little bit of a bigger ballpark, Halcomb, SVC Player of the Year, Co-Player of the Year, she rips one into the gap, and Dalton's speed never breaks stride all the way around and comes sliding in to take the 2-1 advantage. And then an Adina team that was offense. What I thought was so cool about that showed their entire growth to that point was their ability to realize, wait a minute, the offense isn't going to get any more than this. Mm-hmm. And they were able to hold that offensive Ironton to 1 run with Balser and some really good defensive plays as well.
Yeah, and when you're playing a team at that level of Ironton, you have to scratch across, and they're able to do so. And Kimmy Dalton, we've seen in volleyball, is an elite player, and the effort that she gives at all times in volleyball, and you saw that.
Big time effort.
Yeah, and you saw that in scoring that run. As you mentioned, Bossert was unbelievable.
On your website, you had her complete game, 5 hits, 1 earned run, 3 walked, 9 strikeouts, which I thought was big because, again, some of those strikeouts were against the heart of the order, some of the elite kids on the other side, and they were in RBI situations when her team needed it the most.
Including the last one.
And including the last one.
Yeah, so she comes through huge for them. But, man, Piketon, pretty comfortable win in the semifinal. And then
they rolled early in that one,
And then, man, they just crushed the ball. Like, they just 1 through 9, they crushed the ball. It's just...
Look, I didn't know what to expect in the game. We talked about it. The second time they played, the first game was like the first of 20 wins, and then they played again, and it was a little bit lower scoring. I'm gonna be honest. I didn't even try to analyze this game. Like I had no idea what we were in for, but they kind of decided. The pitcher duel thing's kind of boring. Let's play one that 10 first to 10 wins. Well, 10 wasn't enough. You had to have at least 11, and Piketon gets 13.
Yeah, they scored 13 in the game, and then really, with 1 out in the top of the 7th, the tying run was at the plate.
Yeah.
So you get, Peyton Day comes in, does a great job of shutting it down. Sadie Childers has been unbelievable all year.
Yeah.
But they kind of got to her late in the game. She threw a 3-hit shutout in the semifinals. So complete credit to her on what she did.
And in fairness to the pitching, when you have these two lineups, and then you've seen it, we've always said early on, don't you feel like, if you haven't seen someone, maybe a pitcher have an advantage. After you see someone 4, 8, 12 times, the hitters start to have a pretty good feel of what they're going to see.
And what I'll say for Peyton Day in this, she comes up, she gets a ground out to Aubrey Heath, runners on second and third, gets a ground out, they freeze the runner because why take a chance there? And then Dalton comes up, she's able to get a strikeout, and she went right after her. She didn't mess around or anything. It was, hey, if you're going to get Marley Halcomb to the plate, you ain't walking. So she takes ball 1, sees strike 1, and then fouls off 1, and then ends up striking out. But, Halcomb's sitting in the on-deck circle, and they were trying to do everything they could to get to her, but just outstanding pitching to avoid that, because when you get a chance, if you're Adina and you have the SEC Player of the Year. But the big thing for Piketon in that was they were up 10-6 going into the bottom of the 6th. They added 3 runs and gave themselves a little more comfort there. Briar Penwell was awesome in the game. She had a triple, a home run, 3 for 4 runs scored, 3 RBI. Addie Blakeman with another home run, Jalen Forbes with another home run. It's just... Man, it's just a lineup that just comes at you constantly. Kinley Maynard out of the 7-hole with an RBI base or RBI double. Edry Spradlin, 2 hits in the 9-hole. Reese Shanks with another 2 hits. Ava Reiser with another double. I mean, it's just that's all without mentioning Aubrey Heath, who was the co-SEC Player of the Year, as she goes 1 for 3 in the game, but. It's just a lineup that just comes at you all the time.
It does, and again, the home run totals: Breyer 6 and Blakeman 13, Forbes is 10th. I mean, it's just up and down the line. And then you mentioned Heath, it's just there's no pitching around it. Sometimes you'd be like, well, I don't know why they pitched to her. Well, because you're going to pitch to the next kid. You know what I'm saying? Like it's one of those things where after a while, you turn a 1 or 2 run inning into a 4 or 5 run inning if you just start trying to be too fine
Yeah.
or pick and choose, and that's what makes teams so good. And then on the Adina side, Jet walked twice. She's 2 for 2. She hits her 17th home run of the year. And then Halcomb another 3 for 4 day. Love the Mallow kid too. I think she's had a really good rookie season across all of her sports. She's going to be one to really watch grow into her sophomore season.
And her being behind Jet is huge because, like, why pitch to her? Oh, well, you're gonna have to pitch to her because Mallow's so good behind her.
Yeah, it really is, and I've really enjoyed watching more and more softball here in the last couple weeks, and good luck to Piketon in the next round because they're going to take an offense until they run into an elite pitcher. Their offense is always going to give them a chance.
Yeah, and they're going to face our Canham on Wednesday at Indian Hill.
21-9, I think I looked up earlier.
They can really score some runs as well. So that looks like their run prevention isn't as good, but it's going to be a really fun matchup over there. That's a 2:00 game on Wednesday, so keep an eye out on that one. That one should be really fun.
I've never been over there. Beautiful facility.
Yes, it was a fantastic facility. I taught there for 2.5 months.
That's right.
Yeah. It's gold standard PE. Like, seriously, it was unbelievable. Like, it was.
Well, did we even say where it was?
It was Indian Hill.
Yeah, as I said, I don't know if we meant we're sitting there talking about the beautiful facility.
Yeah.
I don't even know if we said where they're going.
Yeah, Indian Hill, where if you want to know how much money they have, just look at the owners of the professional baseball teams.
Yeah.
Or professional sports teams in Cincinnati, because they all live in Indian Hill. Yeah. That was depressing walking across that parking lot every day to go from middle school PE to high school PE and just going like, oh man, I wish this was, I wish some of these kids' cars were my cars. And like, I had a brand new car at the time. I was like, this is still kind of depressing. But yeah, they were really nice people. I really enjoyed my time there, but driving an hour and a half each way was a little bit too much at that time. So let's move over to some more history as we had in Division 6. Eastern makes history as they win their first ever district championship. It takes extra innings for them to beat West, but Leah Rader, who we've talked about as a pitcher all year, she goes 7 for 7 in the district tournament. Like, just doesn't make it out.
Yeah.
Then her spot in the order comes up. She gets a base hit. They use a courtesy runner for her, which was Reese Jones. If you've seen the highlight that we posted from Brock Netter, she was flying. So Libby Poorman hits an opposite field base hit to right, gets away on a hop. And Reese Jones, there was no way she was getting thrown out. Once that ball got past the outfield, she scores easily on the play in the first ever district championship for Eastern Pike.
Yeah, and it's always neat. My favorite part of those videos sometimes is I watch the play, and then as I watch them a second or third time, I like when you can see reactions of different people, and it's so genuine and it's so real. It's kind of like in that moment, you don't care who does it. I'm as happy just because I'm a part of it. And those are some of my favorite things. You could tell that celebration was a genuine, we've been building up to this for a long time.
Yeah, and here's the other thing. They've got one senior.
Yeah.
Eastern does.
Yeah.
So, which was Aubrey Quellen, who had a really nice district tournament as well. Came through with a big insurance run hit against Manchester in the semifinal, and then she had a big hit in this game as well. Braylon Bevins, Kinley Babst as well at the top of the order. And this is going without using their second pitcher, which is Paige Helton, who's been outstanding for them throughout the year. This is an Eastern Pike team that's it's been building, and they've done a great job of getting to that point. And just an outstanding couple games for them. Now, shout out to Circleville. They were able to take those games on for the finals because of the rain.
Yes.
Because there was no way they were going to be able to play those games on the natural.
Yeah, and that's we've been talking about that a couple of times today. It can really keep things. And I guess you could argue in softball because of the pitching matchup, the timing of them or whatever is going to not be as big a deal as baseball. But still, it just helps to play when you're supposed to play.
Right. Yeah, because the focus stays that way. So congratulations to Eastern Pike on that. West, who also only had one senior, Malia Whitman, who helped spark a big comeback in their win against Lynchburg-Clay. And Lynchburg-Clay in that game, Noelle Barnhill was unbelievable in the circle. Just kind of tough luck for her because she gives up 2 hits, probably the 2 of the 3 hardest balls that she gave up.
But they didn't even leave the infield, did they? After the
first 2.
First 2.
Yeah.
The rest of the inning just was like,
yeah, it was just
put a ball in play and make things happen.
Yeah, and what I liked what West did in that inning was they didn't let themselves get behind. They just first pitch swinging, put the ball on the ground, and make someone make a play.
Yeah.
So they work a walk to get the bases loaded, and eventually you get a chopper to third, and that's one where I think you got to have someone screaming, just step on the bag, getting out. Yeah. Instead, they try to throw home, throw short, ends up making it 3-2 at the time. Next batter off of Barnhill at the in the circle gets away for a clean hit, makes it 3-3, and then the next ball the infield's playing back instead of in. Might have had a better chance to get the out.
If I remember, so just to make sure, if I remember your updates correctly, just to paint the picture for everybody, the second run would have scored, but stepping on the third base bag would have been the second out of the inning.
Would have been the first.
First out of the inning,
Yeah.
but the tying run would have remained at second base.
Yes.
And then by the time you do that, it really kind of puts tough spot. I mean, for sure, because so many times, you think, you do think corners mound, it's tough.
Yeah.
I mean, you react and you think you have a play, and you just maybe you could even argue that it's not the worst decision, maybe just not a good throw.
Yeah. Not the worst. So, Allie Buckner in that game had a home run for them and was unbelievable at shortstop. Like, one of the better performances I've seen defensively in a while. Allie Hedge had the walk-off in that game. So, Lady Cook, only a sophomore. They've got some really nice pieces coming back. That's a team. Layla Kamer it was so much better from her freshman year to sophomore year in the circle. That's a team that's going to be one to watch for next year.
I agree. That had a little bit more depth to it than I thought. I enjoyed those updates because I was watching some different streams and then I was following some different things. The updates are really fun too. You guys do such a good job of painting a picture inning by inning and giving some video to go along with it and so forth.
And then, so they'll take on West Jefferson at Pickerington North. I just want to go through this stat. This will be on Wednesday.
This
isn't saying this isn't a doable game, but this is you've got a big time player to deal with. Going to Missouri, junior Jenna Mannon from West Jefferson. I had her listed as one of the top juniors in the state. It might be one of the top juniors in the country. 18 home runs, 56 RBI on the year. She scored 50 times. Oh, she's a pitcher too. She struck out 242 batters this year. Like
242.
242, and she doesn't pitch every day. Like, she's striking out 10 plus every single game. Unbelievable. I don't know what's is she going to be a two-way player? Is she, I don't know. Yeah. Like, it just seems like, man, this is a player that is going to translate in a big way for Missouri over in the SEC, and it's a great challenge for Eastern.
It is, yeah. and listen, it's one of those where you come in and you accept the challenge.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of those. This is fun. This is what you've earned the right to be. I always say you've earned the right to be nervous in the next round because who won't be nervous is the team you just beat. I mean, it's one of those. Is you earn the right to be there, and just you accept that. It's going to be an incredible task, but take it on and see what happens.
Mm-hmm. And then on the other side, Lucasville Valley just dominated their games, 9-1 in each of them. Kendall Christman was unreal. 26 strikeouts in the 2 games, including 16 against a Fairfield team that just blew up offensively the game before. Unbelievable outing by the junior. She's over 500 career strikeouts as well. I mean, this is a team that they've got depth in their lineup. In their district games, they had home runs from Addison Wolf, Laylee McGraw, Riley Weeks, and then EJ Weiss, Isabella Bray, and Emily Barr just make this a really dynamic offense as well. Really impressed with what they were able to do.
I can't get over these strikeout totals because I can't get over the home run totals too. Softball is becoming more like Major League Baseball from the three outcomes of walk, strikeout, home run. And when you can get the high strikeout total, some of these swings might be getting more a little longer, a little bit more powerful. If you can get the strikeout totals to go up, it takes a lot of pressure off of your defense. And obviously, Christman able to do that there in those two games with 26 of them.
Yeah, 26 strikeouts in 2 games. And as we said, Fairfield faced Peebles for the 3rd time, and it was 2. Each game was a 3-run game. Peebles ends up winning the league. Fairfield finishes a game behind, and then they just dominated the tournament game. So congratulations on Fairfield on getting to a district championship game, but it was all.
We kind of highlighted Fairfield in the 1 Division 6, and then Southeastern in Division 5 as some sleeper teams that we thought that had a chance to maybe go that round. I think what happened was they just they kind of got to the brink of where they were going to go, and then they just got kind of outplayed, talent wise. But awesome accomplishments for those programs.
Yeah, this is a Valley team that, faced Wheelersburg multiple times. They beat Piketon a couple weeks ago. They play West. They play Waverly. They play an outstanding schedule throughout the season, so they're not going to be worried about anyone that they're going to see in the next round, which will be last year's state runner-up in Sugar Creek Garraway. The Pirates are going to come in with a 25-5 record. But if you have Christman in the circle, and then you've got that lineup that we talked about, I think if you're Valley, you feel like, hey, we've got a chance anytime we line up, we suit up, because we've got the horse in the circle, or the big arm. I don't know how you. I don't think. Do you say horse as a girl? I don't know.
Well, I mean, they probably wouldn't
The mare?
appreciate that. They
The
probably
mare?
wouldn't appreciate
Yeah.
that. Like I would probably go with the.
I'm excited for this.
I would go with the high level arm in the circles.
Yes.
The way I would.
Yeah,
say. I would stay away from all other analogies there on the softball side. That's just
She's
my
outstanding.
friend to friend.
Yes.
That'd be my advice
Yeah,
to you.
she's outstanding.
Yes.
I'm not editing that out.
Okay.
But I'm going to leave it because I said it. But, Kendall Christman is outstanding. And
Yeah.
obviously, throughout her career so far, I had mentioned before where, like, watching her pitch last year, I was really impressed with what she was able to do.
No question.
Kind of like...
Watching her in some other sports this
Yeah.
year, too, just an incredible athlete.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes we forget to recognize the athleticism
Yes.
that it takes and the durability. We've talked about athletes being bigger, faster, stronger. You and I were talking off the air, even in the NBA Western Conference Final, about like even teams as young as the Thunder can't stay healthy. They're dropping like flies. We live in a day of durability sometimes lacks, and so seeing these kids be strong enough to take the ball and compete at that level game in, game out's impressive.
Yeah, very impressive with what she's able to do, and that's why Valley is going to have a chance against whoever they
Yes.
line up against, and look forward to following that as well. But let's go to our final division of the night with Division 7. We'll talk a little bit about Notre Dame, the defending state champions, first. They dominated. But man, it's going to be really fun to talk about that Sims Valley game here in a second. But the Titans, 24-4 on the season, a 10-0 win over a really good Clay team, just dominated a conference opponent. But and they were just Ava Rush struck out 8 in the game, only gave up 3 hits. Leah Sword went 3 for 3 with another home run and a double. She had 4 RBI. Kennedy Lyon goes deep. She went 2 for 2 with 3 RBI. And that's not even mentioning, Kate Entler, Lindsay Schaefer, Bella Rush, all knocked in runs as well for the defending state champions. This is a lineup that it feels like it's so deep.
It is, and I think we talked about it with Wheelersburg earlier. Once you start to set a standard and you start to play at that standard, you kind of carry that reputation into the tournament. You just become a really tough out mentally for an opponent that's from the Southeast District. You know what I'm saying? So like as you get through these particular rounds, I think that adds to it a little bit in terms of just the reputation that you carry. And then, but what kills me is like you just continue to read these notes off and home run.
Yeah.
Like Sims Valley now's hit over, I think I read online the other day, over 30 on a year. It's just it's unbelievable the way the balls line out. It kind of makes it fun. I've had some people say you think they're going to, like baseball went through this about 20 years ago, do you think they're going to go through some equipment changes? Do you think they're going to go through the way they're building field? I don't know, but right now you could argue that this has made softball really, really fun in terms of a little breakout offensively. There for the longest time when a young lady was growing up, you thought, okay, she needs to pitch or she needs to do this. Now we're seeing more and more of these Division I athletes playing – Division II athletes playing a position and hitting.
Yes, and man, this is a lineup that is ridiculous. And then their outfield defense is elite with Bach and Macy Ford and Jason Bryant as well, who also add to some really good depth of that lineup. And it's just it's a team that.
And again, the athleticism from other sports, and that matters. I mean, we talked about being able to score from first on balls to the fence, and we talked about just beating out routine ground ball. There's athleticism there too.
I don't know if I talked to you about this. Did you know that Notre Dame won the girls SOC 1 track? Do you know how many athletes they had on their team? 2. They won the conference because they had 2. If they do the same events, it's just it's awesome. I mean, you just have 2 kids that just go out and just run and do it at an elite level, and it's just like, oh yeah, it's just. Yeah, just outstanding for Notre Dame. So at the small school level, and you can go out and you get all your kids to go do stuff, and they do it at a high level. It just shows how special that community can be. So last year, well, I'll get to that actually in a minute, but they win their first state championship last year. They've got some awesome pieces back from that. They're going to take on a 10-time state champion in the next round on Thursday. They will take on Strasburg-Franklin, who won the state championship in girls basketball this year as well. They last year that's what I think it was kind of like. That was kind of their hope, was they were going to get to play them. Strasburg-Franklin loses before they could play them last year, so they played Huntington Valley instead, and they win that game. But Franklin is just one of the elite softball programs in the state of Ohio. I think Notre Dame's still the better team, but this is a Strasburg-Franklin team that history is outstanding.
Yeah, 21-7. I don't pay attention to the 7 as much in the smaller school softball or baseball, because when you're a 10-time state champion, you're playing a different level of schedule because of that, because you're trying to schedule up and you're trying to do some things. So I don't look a whole lot into that. Should be just a terrific matchup. All kinds of tradition will be on the field that day.
Yeah, I would guess it would be similar to that Huntington Valley game last year, where it was a 3-1 game. I would say that's probably going to be one where the pitching and defense has got to be as locked in as possible for Notre Dame. But man, they are a talented team. So look forward to that. And then with another one, that was one of the games to watch in the district. Luckily, Derek was at this one. Sims Valley, a 6-4 win over Southern. The Tornadoes scored it with 2 in the 7th. And then Marley Ferguson, man, just talk about a no-doubter. Her 14th home run of the season, which was a record-breaking home run. Just absolutely crushed the pitch. Scores Macy Bland ends up being a 6-4 win, a 2-run homer. Bland also homered earlier in the game. That's a team. Natalie Simpson had a 2-run double in the 5th inning that gave them the 4-2 lead. And then full credit to Southern for just battling back and giving themselves a chance. Yeah. But Brenna Tibbs struck out 9 in the game. This is a Sims Valley team. They lost in the regional final last year to Notre Dame, and they want another shot at them.
Yeah, I think so, and I think that's it's all part of the growth. Where I talked earlier about the intimidation factor. I think when you're able to go toe to toe, what that does is it lets you know the level you got to get to. And this program's continued to do that this year, really. I mean, when you consider the rate that they've hit the ball out of the ballpark, but it's the same way they've been in a lot of close games. There's been a lot of 6th and 7th inning clutch swings, and I think that makes you battle tested in a unique way too. To where when you get into these close games into the 5th, 6th, 7th inning, there's not as much panic because you all of a sudden have that to recall on. We've been here and we've accomplished this. Let's do it again.
Yeah, and in that game also, after Southern had tied it, they had runners on first and third with only one out. Brenna Tibbs gets a big strikeout before getting a ground ball to Simpson to end the threat. Just, when you've got that experience in the circle and just a winner there, they're not going to get shaken by any of those situations where, hey, we just lost the lead, but she knows, hey, we've got some big bats coming up. I just got to keep us in this game.
Yeah.
Gets the big strikeout, and then ultimately they were able to get the win in the end.
Yeah, should be interesting. I know you're going to talk a little bit about what they have coming up too. That could be a really, really interesting bracket.
Yes. For Southern, they finished 17-5 on the year. An outstanding season for the Tornadoes. Congratulations to them. Hupp with a double. She pitched well. I mean, it's what you can do against that team. Is you just got to try to keep them in the ballpark as much as you can. But overall, just unable to do so at the end of the game. But that's an outstanding volleyball and softball season for this Southern team. They come up just a little bit, very little bit short in each one, but a really nice season for that.
No question. It's interesting to see how when you and I do what we do through the fall, winter, and spring, it's interesting to see all the repeat names and how many, especially at these small schools, how many of the programs that these kids can impact.
Yeah, you have Hupp, Rose, Norris, these kids that did it in other sports, and that's why those teams can make an impact. But you mentioned, Sims Valley will take on 19-9 Conniston Valley on Thursday. The Rockets with an outstanding schedule, and as you said, with this small school, you don't pay attention to that 9 as much because of who they're playing. They played easily the closest game with Notre Dame last year, 3-1 game in the regional semifinal. This is going to be a really tough out. Sims Valley is going to have to play really well. Tibbs is going to have to spin it really well in the circle, but man, they've got the capability of doing so.
No question. This all takes place at OU on the 28th and then on the 30th. So that is Thursday, Saturday.
Yeah,
is that
Thursday,
correct?
Saturday.
Thursday, Saturday, 2 o'clock, and then 5 o'clock. They play back to back with Notre Dame first and Sims Valley second, and then obviously the winners there on the 30th. Let's root for two area teams to have a chance in the Elite Eight to guarantee us one in the Final Four.
Could be a pretty cool day there if Meggs and Wheelersburg can win, and then also if Sims Valley and Notre Dame can win. Yeah. Both of those finals would be at OU on Saturday.
Nice.
So
nice.
that would be. Let's hope for that. That would be the best case scenario for our area and be able to get out.
Sign me up.
And watch some of those games and maybe we get down there. I don't know. We'll see. We'll have somebody down there, but at the very same time, we might be down there too. So we will see. So really looking forward to it. I mean, this should be a really fun week. I mean, we've got some outstanding games coming up. What are your thoughts on what's coming up this week?
I'm excited to continue our coverage. It was really good to be back in the booth on Saturday, like just to see the games. And I love tournament baseball, tournament softball. Every pitch matters, every little detail. We're going to get a chance to come back at it. We're sitting here on Monday. We're going to be back at it there on Tuesday and Wednesday there at the VA with some really good games, and anxious to crown some district championships.
Yeah, hopefully this episode gets out by 4 o'clock. We'll see. I don't know. It's 1:50 now. We'll see how quickly I can turn it around here. I'm going to try to get some dinner here.
But all this stuff should be out in
Yes.
terms of before, like, we get back into the booth there tomorrow, which
Yes.
would be Tuesday, Wednesday. You want to announce real quick what we have coming up? 3 tomorrow?
3 on Tuesday. 1:30 will be Lynchburg-Clay and Portsmouth. That'll be you and Carson. Then Division 6, it starts Division 5, then goes to Division 6, Division 4. Division 6 will be Huntington Southeastern. You and Dewey will have the call on that. And then the 6:30 game will be Wheelersburg and Logan Elm. That'll be Kenneth and Carson will have the call on that one. And then on Wednesday, we will have Minford and Wellston will be the 4 o'clock. I think both games are going to be you and Carson on Wednesday.
Okay.
And then the 6:30 game will be Zane Trace Ironton. So make sure you check those games out. Those 5 games, maybe more. We'll kind of see. We kind of got to see what we can do coming up for possibility on Saturday, but we'll see as time goes on. So at the very least, check those out. Make sure you're following along for any updates you're going to see from Derek and Brock and maybe more as we get towards the weekend. Chillicothe Paints open at VA Memorial Stadium on Thursday evening. So we got fireworks that night. So go out and watch some baseball and then come up and watch some fireworks and listen to this idiot try not to butcher stuff on the PA for the first time. So looking forward to a really fun week of baseball and softball as well. And then we're going to figure out how to read track stuff at some point, and hopefully we can talk about who's going to state next week.
Yes.
We'll talk about who's going to state next week in softball, but also who's going to state next week in track and field, and then we'll do some regional previews for baseball as well. So hopefully we're talking about, okay, so Piketon's going to the Southwest. Hopefully we're talking about 3 to 5 teams in the out of the Southeast going to the Final Four. We could get up to 5. Hopefully we can get all 5 out, and we'll see. And then we'll talk about a bunch of baseball stuff as well, and then as many athletes as possible get to the state and track. Hopefully, I think Bo Hessler has an outstanding chance to maybe repeat, and then Davis or Williams in the pole vault, and then Levi Beam from Unioto has been really good. He won a district as well.
That's been good.
And then on the girls' side, we've got some elite athletes as well. So hopefully we'll see some really good things in track and then also in baseball and softball.
Yeah. Subscribe to the channel.
Yep.
You're going to get it all year long, and here in the spring, no different. Make sure if you enjoy this type of stuff, make sure you're locked into SOSA. We'll take you home the rest of the way.
Yep. And then we'll also have Horsing Around coming up at some point.
Yeah.
I gotta see if I don't think it's on there yet, but that's going to be coming out. And if you're tired of me now, just get ready to get real tired of me soon. So looking forward to that. And I gotta ignore this phone call because that's a scam.
Yeah.
It does say scam likely. That's the best thing about phones now is like scam likely. I still answer it. Like half the time I don't answer 740 numbers because I'm like, I don't know, because it doesn't always say scam likely. But yesterday, thankfully, I answered because
you know so many people that their name's going to come up.
I know.
Like, if there's not a name coming up there, then you know that
That's why I was so thrown off yesterday when I answered it. It was like at a real person that I knew. Like, how do I not have your number yet? So, it's a lot of contacts in there. So, check us out. If you haven't watched the games yet or whatever, just make sure you check those out. We got a lot of great sponsors. And like we said, if someone else is streaming, make sure you watch them as well and support the people sponsoring them as well. So for Shayne Combs, I'm John Bruce. You've been watching SOSA Overtime presented by Perfection One. Have a great rest of your week.